I'll be thirsty for an hour. I can handle it. People go way longer without a drink. And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, August 2nd. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Boom Fantasy. We got 8 games to talk about coming off a nice early slate where the Atlanta Braves whooped some ass, which was always nice to see, except for the fact that I only had them as basically filler. Tons of Ronald Acuna and the rest of those guys, but not a lot in stacks, and you needed the Atlanta Braves. But that's okay. We're on to the main slate, 8 games for tonight. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Adam, what's good?
Yeah, man, how's it going? I enjoy these split slate days, but
I love
early slate. Early slate didn't go great for me. Same boat as you. Like I was around the field on Atlanta in general, but just didn't get there. Needed a lot of Houston. They didn't come through. So on to tonight. Looks like a pretty fun one though. I mean, there's no cores, so we're back to not having one team running away with everything. Highest top stack percentages right now are like 11 to 12%. There's like 5 pitchers projected above 20% ownership. Everybody else lower than that. So pretty wide open slate, especially for an 8-gamer.
Yeah, I love it. I love the split slates. As long as you get 4 games on the smaller of them, it's the perfect day because I just want shit to do throughout the day. It really makes the rest of the day operate the way that I want it to. So no complaints there. I just ran my crunch. I'm very surprised to see the results. So we got a lot to talk about. Should be fun. I don't know if you did it this morning on the strategy show. I doubt you did. This isn't the way that Laffy would normally take this, but maybe you did. Thoughts on the Orioles deadline?
I liked it. I actually liked it a lot. I think I view the Orioles differently than a lot of Orioles fans do. I think they are a very good team. I don't think that there was anything they could do at the deadline to make them go from a very good team that is going to be an underdog in every series except maybe the first round to a team that was like going to be favored in the ALCS or World Series. Like there was no move they could make. So I wanted them to essentially do what they did, give up guys that don't have any long-term future in Baltimore, get some sort of pitching improvement, which they got in Flaherty. Obviously, they got in Fuji a while ago. I was hoping for another back-end bullpen arm. They tried. They didn't get it. But I was very happy with what they did. Like, there were people upset they didn't get Verlander, which, 1, wasn't an option because Verlander said he wasn't going to Baltimore. But 2, like, what the Astros gave up for Verlander, the equivalent the Orioles would have had to give up to match that is just not something I would have wanted to move for Verlander because, like, yeah, he's a better pitcher than the Orioles have, but he's not making them go from where they are now to, neck and neck with the Dodgers or the Braves, or being favored against Texas or even Tampa. It's just not going to happen. So I was very happy with what they did. I think a lot of Orioles fans were upset with it, but I kind of mentioned it on the show with Laffy this morning. It's hilarious to me how like we have a GM now who has been here 5 years. Everything the guy touches turns to gold. He does everything right. He did everything right in Houston before he came here, and you still have people like just bitching that he didn't do what they thought wanted him to do and make some miracle deadline trade.
Yeah, and you're just like you're in no rush. Like you are just slowly building. You're just a slow simmer right now. You're making like pulled pork. We're not trying to quickly sear the Orioles and get them ready. Those are my food analogies.
Yeah. So, like, and the thing is, like, I agree because the Orioles in theory should have a nice like 5-year window, 5+ year window where they're really good. Those close early all the time. Shit happens. Yeah. Players get hurt, whatever. So I do understand the idea of like, hey, you're good now. Go try and win a World Series now. But like I was saying, there was no true difference maker available. So I kind of wanted them to either do what they did or go get like Dylan Cease, who's under contract for 3 years and is a like legitimate number 1, and give up the prospects necessary for that. I didn't want let's give up 2 of our top 100, 2 of our top 10 prospects in the organization, top 100 overall, to get some like marginal upgrade at pitcher that isn't going to matter.
Like, let's just say that whatever I'm about to read from Fangraphs matches the odds, and like this is right. They're around 4% to win the World Series. They're around 38% to win the division. Unless you're getting like Strider coming back, like some sort of like, obviously that's not happening, but like upper echelon type talent is coming back in. You're not moving a 4% win World Series odds are 5%. It's not jumping to 15 no matter what you do. It's to 7 to
Right.
8 incremental changes that are good. Like they're beneficial, but you're early on that cash in. The Rays odds on here are 11%. Like if you're moving from 12 to 15, that jump is different than moving 3 percentage points from 4 to 7 or whatever.
Right. And it's really just like if you could go get a guy, and none of these guys were moved. Blake Snell wasn't moved. Cease wasn't moved. Castillo wasn't moved. If you could go get a guy that is going to potentially make you a favorite in game 1 of a series, then, and especially if he's under contract, by all means. But like, I was talking with one of my friends on Twitter last night. Sure, Justin Verlander is better than Jack Flaherty. The difference in prospects given up is massive. Like I will take the 85% Justin Verlander and not have made a single dent in this farm system, because the other thing is like you still have all these guys. So next year, Gunnar Henderson hopefully is better. Rutschman hopefully is better. Like you should have a better team, and these pieces are going to be more valuable in the offseason, so you can trade them then, or you still have, a future deadline to use them at. So I thought they handled it really well.
Yeah, I was curious where you landed. So good to see. I don't have much to say for the Braves. They're the Braves. They're already awesome.
I thought the funniest part was that the Tigers did not manage to trade Eduardo Rodriguez. Just absolute incompetence.
Do you not? How much time is left on his deal?
So he can opt out after this year. He has an option for 3 more years, or he can opt out after the season. And he most likely will opt out, because if he opts in, it's I think $49 million over 3 years or something. And he's going to get paid more than that if he opts out.
That's what makes no sense then.
Right. Yeah, no, he's probably gone. And it really, obviously, I don't know what happened, but it seems like they just didn't bother to actually find out if the guy that negotiated a no trade clause into his contract planned on using the no trade clause.
I just don't I hope nothing's going on negatively in his life. I don't understand why you wouldn't take that if you don't think that you're going to be playing. Like, if it doesn't matter, if your contract is null and void at the end of this season, then go to the Dodgers for 3 months.
Oh yeah, I seriously. So I mean, he said he wanted to be closer. He wanted to stay close to family,
which is fine if you have to be there for 3 more years after this. But if you can just see the lay of the land, just get out for 3 months. What are you doing? You don't have to stay. You can go right back to Detroit. You have road games too, or you're not home all that often. Yeah. So I mean, and if something's wrong at home, I don't know.
Yeah, say I have no idea what his family's. The interesting thing to me was that he was willing to waive it to the Padres. So my assumption,
I heard you and Lofty talking about that.
My assumption is that he probably just has a good friend in the Padres organization that he wanted to go play with or whatever. But I mean, also San Diego. I tweeted yesterday that I thought it was super relatable. He's just like, I'm not going to work anywhere that I don't know I'm not comfortable or isn't San Diego. Okay.
Well, you want to do this?
Yeah.
All righty, let's kick it off. First game up, and hit that like button, by the way. 350 people, 60 likes. Starting off with a doozy. 3.8 run implied total for the Yankees, 3.6 for the Rays. Garrett Cole is 10,800, 33% owned. Shane McClanahan is 9,300, so $1,500 cheaper, 16% owned. Let's start with Garrett Cole. Is he the best play on today's slate for pitching?
Yes, but it's with I don't know if asterisk is the right word, but this is one of those slates where there's a lot of good pitching, but they all have a pretty substantial, this matchup sucks, or, something along those lines. It's not a good matchup. Tampa Bay obviously is a very good offense. They're getting a park upgrade in Yankee Stadium. All kinds of things can go wrong in this park if you're a pitcher, but Cole is very good. 3.62 xFIP, 27% K percentage, only a 3.6 to 3.7 implied run total for Tampa. He's the highest projected pitcher on the slate. He's the highest owned pitcher, first in top 2 pitcher percentage. He looks like the best pitching option if you can afford him. But again, it's not, we don't have the good pitcher versus Oakland in Oakland matchup anywhere on the slate.
Talk to me about McClanahan, because this isn't I don't feel like the Yankees and the Rays are all that different from an overall talent perspective for the lineup. How do you feel about McClanahan here?
I feel like what you just said is insane, but
really?
I think the Yankees are way worse than Tampa.
I don't think you're giving Aaron Judge enough credit for what that does to a 9-man lineup.
But that also doesn't really matter for a pitcher. You're facing him 3 times.
I guess.
And then you're getting a bunch of bad hitters. Whereas like every at bat that you're getting against Tampa Bay is a difficult out. Almost every at bat.
Then I guess I guess you're in this scenario, you're making my point even better for me. What do you want to do with McClanahan, who I guess has a better matchup than Garrett Cole?
Yeah, I think McClanahan looks fine at 9,300. 15% ownership. There's a lot of pitchers like this on the slate that are going to be pulling 15, 20, slightly above 20% ownership. McClanahan's won at 9,300. Aaron Judge is obviously a problem. Torres and Stanton are whatever, but I mean, this lineup is not good overall. Judge obviously pulls it up, but McClanahan's a very good pitcher. It is a negative park shift for him, but his salary has come down a little bit as well. So that's nice to see. Overall this season, 26% K percentage, 3.83 xFIP, walk percentage a little bit higher than you would like it, but McClanahan looks pretty good.
I'm not really getting to McClanahan. I am extra special jamming Garrett Cole. So 1-2, if you're in chat, it's Garrett Cole for today. Garrett Cole is the guy that ruins my day. Yeah, just like steamer wobas for righties and lefties have the Yankees at 342, Rays 336. So actually a slight nod to the Yanks. I think it helps to just have a sea of righties against a lefty in this scenario.
I think that steamer is probably not factoring in that these Yankees hitters have all just fallen off of a cliff in terms of their career arc.
I mean, most of these guys don't look too good. It's the Torres, Judge, Stanton trio that is really driving everything. And honestly, I assume Torres, Judge, and Stanton are going to have pretty massive righty wobas. That's for sure, up against the lefty. Like that's
like that part of the order is obviously fine. But I mean, Kiner Falefa is your leadoff hitter. Bowers, LeMahieu is terrible. Bader is whatever. Volpe, I don't. Like maybe good at some point. It's a really underwhelming lineup outside of those 3. And I mean, Stanton's had some issues this year as well.
So I don't know how I don't have this. I don't have the updated lineup in my sheet right now, and I don't know why.
Okay, so it's Kiner Falefa leading off, Judge, Torres, Stanton, Bowers, LeMahieu, Bader, Volpe, Rortvedt.
All right. I'm going to say a number out loud. 342 is where I had the aggregate WOBA for this team before I started talking. And then once you said Kiner Falefa, I had Torres in the leadoff spot. So I was just like, oh, well, this first 3 is like carrying a lot of water for the rest of this lineup.
Yeah.
And that's also not the case. So 342.
And to your point, too, about them being a lot of righties against lefties, this team is better against left-handed pitching. Sure. This active roster since the start of last season does have the 7th highest WRC plus against left-handed pitching. Again, Judge is driving a lot of that along with Stanton and Torres, but it is a better offense against left-handed pitching than against right-handed pitching.
I just pasted in all of the new lineups and everything. I don't know how I missed that one, but I did a refresh pretty recently, but neither here nor there. Now drops to 333. So it fell 10 points just by updating that lineup. I feel a little bit different now making that statement. So then let's move to bats. Is this a spot where you really want to get to either offense? Because this is the park works because the home runs might be there, but just in terms of runs in general, both of these guys are really good.
Yeah, I think if you're getting to this game offensively, it is simply that there's not much ownership and it's in a good park for power. It's not, there's nothing that I think you can single out and say, hey, this looks really good. You know, McClanahan has allowed a 173 expected ISO to righties this year, but only a 307 expected WOBA. He has a 28% strikeout percentage in that split. So it's not like he's bad against righties. He just gives up some power, and this is a park that'll play it up. So, you know, Judge, Torres, Stanton in particular, clearly are fine to get to, but still a relatively low probability spot. And then similarly on the other side, Garrett Cole, 154 expected ISO to lefties, 138 to righties. There's no, just, oh, well, this guy looks good because XYZ reason. It's simply, yeah, Brandon Lau's a really good hitter. He's a $4,500 second baseman in Yankee Stadium. If you want to get some, fine. Yandy Diaz, really good hitter in Yankee Stadium. Franco, Yankee Stadium. Like, that's the selling point, but it's just talent in a good park. It's not anything about the matchups.
That's a weird one.
They're both, in terms of stack score, Yankees second to last, Tampa Bay dead last. 2.5% chance of being the top stack for the Yankees is last. 3.1% chance for Tampa Bay is third from the bottom. I mean, it's as low probability as you get. It's just simply they have talent, they're not popular, and they're in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I think I prefer the Rays just because of Cole's ownership. Like, I think they're relatively equal for the matchup and how good both pitchers are and stuff. But if Cole's going to be in a third of the lineups, and I don't really want to get to either offense, I'd rather get to the Rays and just know that they ended Cole instead of the Yankees ending McClanahan. Neither one of them looks appealing, other than one-offing some of these dudes if you need to. Rank the game.
Cole, McClanahan, Tampa, Yankees, I guess.
Alrighty.
I think you can make a case for either offense. Like the Rays offense is better, but they have a slightly worse matchup. The Yankees offense is cheaper.
Well, let's talk about real teams then. The Blue Jays and the Orioles. 4.4 run implied total for the Jays, 4.1 for the Orioles. Yusei Kikuchi going for Toronto. Grayson Rodriguez going for Baltimore. Kikuchi 18% owned at 7,800. Grayson Rodriguez 6% owned at 7,200. When I look at that, I just immediately think, well, Grayson Rodriguez isn't getting enough ownership.
I think that too. And then I look at projections and I think I'm going to have trouble getting to him. I talked about this on my Sims video. He didn't show up in that video. Spoiler alert, Drew Smiley showed up a ton. I personally think that Grayson Rodriguez is very similar to Smiley in terms of, Smiley projects a little bit better, but Rodriguez has the better stuff by far, better strikeout stuff. Obviously, a more difficult matchup against the Blue Jays. I love the idea of getting him at low ownership, just given the strikeout ability he has, the stuff that he has, the fact he's looked much better since coming back from AAA. He's throwing more strikes. He's getting ahead in counts. He's just coming off the game where he worked deepest so far in his major league career. So it's easy for me to make the case for low owned Rodriguez, but I can't say that I don't understand why he's as low owned as he is when using data and going through my actual process that doesn't involve saying, well, I kind of like this guy in my head. He's not showing up for me, at least as of.
So when I look at it, I got to 2x the field on Grayson. I had about 13%, and I'm a little light on Kikuchi. I have about 9. When I look at just these two guys together, I'm very happy to flip-flop their ownerships. That works for me. I don't necessarily think, when I start looking at projections, I feel the same way about you for Grayson, where I do think that there's some upside, and Drew Smiley is obviously there causing the same sort of problems for me as he's causing for you. But I just look in this particular spot, I think it's just easier to get to Grayson Rodriguez over Kikuchi because of the ownership.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Although, Kikuchi does project ahead as well. Smiley's projection has actually come down since I ran the Sims tool. So I'm hoping he doesn't show up as much. He looks much more comparable to Rodriguez now. So I am actually happy to see that because I said it in the video and on the show this morning, I'm going to go with the data like always, but I had no way to explain why Drew Smiley looked as good as he did relative to other pitchers. So I am happy to see him come down a bit. Kikuchi is risky, but he does have a 25% K percentage this year, 3.99 xFIP. The problem is that he gives up power too. 1.8 home runs per 9, 211 expected ISO to righties. This game was the game of the day in my article today because it's just that game where there's a lot of upside and something is going to win out. You have one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, 100 mile an hour fastball in Grayson Rodriguez at 7,200. Obviously, he can give you a very good game for that price just based on talent. He's facing a Blue Jays team that has tons of upside. He's struggled mostly with lefties, so Brandon Belt stands out in particular, but tons of upside for the Jays. And then on the other side, you have a $7,800 pitcher in Kikuchi striking out 25% of hitters, going up against a lineup with 8 right-handed hitters plus Gunnar Henderson that has tons of power. So just getting to different parts of this game is really appealing.
So I just did the rerun, and I was able to rerun and sim everything and see where I stand now. So I now have more Grayson Rodriguez. I'm up to 23%. Again, don't really mind that, but
no, I do perfectly happy if I get there. If I get none, I also understand why. But it is interesting to me, and shouldn't be read into much. I think the positives that we've gotten from his return are the most important. He has only struck out 21 to 22% of hitters in his 3 starts since coming back, but he's faced the Dodgers, the Rays, and the Yankees. The Yankees, obviously not a bad matchup, but it's not like he's had easy matchups. He's working ahead in counts. He's throwing really hard. Everything's been good for him. The only, small thing that I'm questioning is did he make, when they told him to go improve his fastball command, is it going to turn out that is costing him strikeouts?
I have Kikuchi by 1.5 points, by the way, just for reference sake. And I'm neutral now on Kikuchi.
That's about where we are also.
I'm much lower now on Drew Smiley. I don't know what happened, but I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll say I don't know what lineup people thought. I hadn't actually looked at the Reds lineup. No De La Cruz. Like, I don't know that should be a huge deal for. Or if anything, that should make Smiley go up. You'd think, except he can't really hit lefties. But their implied run totals up to 4.8.
Okay. So yeah, 23% Grayson Rodriguez certainly has some upside in that particular play. So I'm a little excited to get to both of those guys.
It's a spot where you can very easily see why there's just built-in upside here, because the strikeout stuff's been there this year. And when you go back and you look at his first stint of games in the majors, it wasn't like he was just bad. He had a handful of games where he was very good, and he had a handful of games where he looked like he should never pitch in professional baseball. And so he was really volatile, but the strikeout stuff was there. But also 6.2 ERA this year, 3.83 xFIP, 349 batting average on balls in play, only a 67.7% left on base percentage. Very unlucky in a lot of spots. And so you're getting basically him priced for his surface level run prevention when it doesn't tell the whole story. And so it's pretty obvious that there's built-in upside.
Let's talk bats then. Orioles are 6th in ownership. Blue Jays are 9th. They're not separated by all that much. We do have the O's ranked slightly higher in top stack and top value. Are you going to get to your Orioles?
I was getting to them earlier, around 8%. They were in my top 5 stacks. I like the spot. Like I said, 211 expected ISO to righties, 191 to lefties. And typically we do prefer Baltimore against right-handed pitching. But one reason that comes up so much is that Camden Yards downplays right-handed power. So when you're in Camden Yards and you have this right-handed heavy lineup from the Orioles, it kind of sucks for DFS because they're basically just lining it up for them to hit 365-foot flyouts to left field. Now you're in the Rogers Center where it's not great for power this year with the new dimensions, but they don't have a 385-foot wall that is 20 feet high in left field. It's still better than that. So that's not as much of an issue here. And these guys still have power. Rutschman over a 200 expected ISO against lefties this year. Mountcastle's like over 400. Santander and Hayes are both 200 plus. Henderson's been awful against lefties overall, but seems to have made some adjustments at the plate. He talked about working on it. He has hit some homers off lefties recently, including yesterday. And Kikuchi gives up power to lefties as well. Westberg's a cheap right-handed bat that has upside. McCann's only 2,600 if you can't afford Rutschman. So it's a really easy lineup to get to in terms of salary. Rutschman's at 5K. Henderson's at 4,900. Everybody else is 4,400 or less. Like, there's a lot of power here for cheap. I think the Blue Jays are a little bit more difficult to get to. There's still certainly upside for them, but you're paying 5,100 for Guerrero, 5K for Springer, Merrifield's at 46, Chapman's at 48. So that stack gets a little bit more difficult. You don't have Bo Bichette, who's on the injured list. So I do prefer the Orioles side.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much on the Blue Jays side, but I do have a decent chunk of O's. Rank the game.
Kikuchi, Baltimore, Blue Jays, Rodriguez.
Schedule for the rest of the... Oh, you're not done. Okay, hit me.
I was going to say, I think you can kind of move those around in any order.
Yeah. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next, 6 p.m. That's pretty constant. They'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock. PGA Live Before Lock coming up at 8 p.m. Adam's going to be on that show talking about how good he is, right?
I'm doing what?
You hit that PGA show?
You're
PGA tout now?
Yeah, I think I'm doing the solo PGA show today.
Oh, there you go. That'll be a real thrill for everybody.
Last time I had a big PGA win, I agreed to go on the golf show, and I don't think I had a winning slate for the next year and a half. So not doing that anymore. No more favors.
There we go. And as usual, folks, today is a great day for you to sign up at BetMGM because you'll get up to $1,000 in bet credits if you lose your first bet and you went for it. You went the whole Magilla, went for 1,000. But if you put down 100 on your first bet and it loses, you'll get 100 back in bet credits. You also get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. It's an awesome deal. If you're in a legal betting state and you have not taken advantage of BetMGM yet, you should do that as fast as you can. My recommendation is to put in as much money as you can because your first bet has got a little bit of protection on it. Now, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or over. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hit that thumbs up so we can get just over 100. We're at 97 right now, and go make yourself some money at BetMGM, folks. We have plenty of stuff at Stochastic/OddShopper that can help you out. All righty, Cardinals and Twins, 4.2 run implied total for the Cards, 4.7 for the Twins. Dakota Hudson going for St. Louis. Joe Ryan going for Minnesota. No ownership coming into Hudson at 7,700, nor there should he shouldn't get anything anyway. 12% ownership coming into Joe Ryan at 10,100. How does he rank here for you? Not the best spot in the world for him. I think his ownership is about where it should be.
Yeah, I think so too. For one, it's a relatively tough matchup as far as the Cardinals are a difficult team to strike out. They do have good hitters in their lineup, even though the season has gone to shit for them. Joe Ryan is very good.
Yeah,
he actually has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 29.5%, highest K minus BB percentage at 24.8%, 3.67 xFIP. Good pitcher, but you do also have some weather concerns here. Not in terms of like, I don't think the game's going to play or anything, but there is rain delay risk partway through this game. So that just adds an extra layer of risk to Ryan. I don't think that's why he's as low owned as he is. I think it's also that he is in a tough spot. He's $10,100, second most expensive pitcher on the slate. We have him projected third. He's fine. The upside's there, but I do think he should be lower owned than somebody like Cole.
Do you have anything you want to add for Hudson?
I do not.
Okay. Well, number 5 in top stack, number 3 in top value, 5th in ownership. The Twins looking pretty solid here against Dakota Hudson. Hudson, not a lot to write home about, but lefty power does kind of die in St. Louis. How do you feel about the Minnesota Twins?
I think this is like a fascinating matchup to see how it plays out. Dakota Hudson's never been a very good strikeout pitcher, but he also generally doesn't give up a lot of power. Since the start of last season, only a 126 expected ISO to lefties, 12.5% K percentage, 14% K percentage to righties, 143 expected ISO. The Twins are the polar opposite of that. The Twins are a lineup full of guys that either hit the ball far or they swing and miss. So I'm really interested to see how it plays out. Does Hudson get more strikeouts than usual? Do the Twins hit for more power than most teams do against Hudson? I typically am inclined to lean with the offense here, especially when they are as inexpensive as Minnesota is. So I do like getting to them. Again, I don't think this looks like a game where you have major weather concerns for the offenses. I think it's more so just the fact that you could lose pitching early. But you're getting the same cheap, high upside offense. Correa, Julian, Buxton, Kepler, Polanco, Wallner, 1 through 6. Plenty of power there. Joey Gallo hitting 8th. We know he can hit the ball far. So Minnesota's coming in 3rd in stack score. 8.5% chance of being the top stack is 5th. 11.5% chance of being the top value is 3rd. Looks good to me.
Any interest in the Cardinals against Joe Ryan?
It's sort of the Shane McClanahan, Garrett Cole spot, except not even in Yankee Stadium. But, Joe Ryan, 174 expected ISO to righties, 136 to lefties, 32.5% K percentage to righties since the start of last year. This year, 195 expected ISO to righties, but a lot of that is probably because of that game against Atlanta where he just got lit up. So I don't view this as like anything standing out as being in a good spot. If you want to get like a Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado 2-man, by all means, it'll be low owned. They're good. But, I think it's one of those teams.
Hell of a news dump from S&P. Buxton scratched from the Twins lineup. Brad Miller to the IL, and Corey Seager is activated and in the lineup.
Yeah, that changes a lot.
Rank the game.
So, Buxton being out obviously makes this lineup worse, but it's still not bad. Correa, Julian, Polanco, Kepler, Farmer, Wallner still works. It's just not as good. I'll go Minnesota 1, Ryan 2, Cards 3, Hudson 4.
4.6 run implied total for the Rangers, 4 for the White Sox. Dane Dunning going for Texas. Dylan Cease going for the White Sox. Reminder that Corey Seager is now going to be in this lineup for Texas. Let's start with Cease. 26% owned at 8,400 here against the Rangers. The Rangers lineup obviously looking a little bit better than it did 10 minutes ago. How do you feel about Cease given that price tag?
So I still feel good and also scared, just like I did before this lineup change. Yeah. It's a tough matchup against the Rangers with or without Corey Seager. Obviously, it is more difficult with Seager, but it wasn't going to be easy either way. It looked like they were not going to have Seager, Heim, or Duran, which did make things a bit easier for Cease. Now it just looks like they won't have Heim or Duran. But the big thing here is that, and they have a 4.6 implied run total. Like, this is by no means a safe spot for Dylan Cease. But the thing that stands out to me, the reason I was getting him in the Sims tool, the reason I think he still deserves plenty of ownership, and right now he's projected for about 26%, is that you're talking about the guy with the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate, and he's only $8,400. 3.93 xFIP, 27.5% K percentage. This morning, I compared his numbers across the board to Garrett Cole, and Cole is better, but in terms of talent, not by that much. And it's not like Cole has a great matchup either. So when you get that salary discount, I think it's pretty apparent that Cease is a good play, even though he's risky. Strikeout percentage, 0.3 of a point higher than Cole. Walk percentage is about 3 points higher. That's not ideal, but home runs per 0.91 to 0.86, 3.93 xFIP for Cease, 3.62 for Cole, 3.57 FIP for Cease, 3.25 for Cole. He's still a very, very good pitcher. He should probably be like 9,500 in general. So getting 8,400 here does mitigate a lot of the, the Rangers are really good. Like that's factored into the projection, obviously, who he's facing, and just lowering the price tag, or not even lowering because he's been cheap for a while, but having him sit at 8,400 just mitigates a lot of the risk.
What about Dunning? 12% owned, 6,100, looking like an interesting paydown option from a value standpoint. White Sox lineup doesn't look all that great. There are some strikeouts to be had. Is Dunning okay to get to today?
He is, but I also would just kind of rather not. He was somebody that in the Sims tool earlier, I wasn't getting to very much. Now, again, I was getting 80% Drew Smiley, so it made Dane Dunning a little bit unnecessary. But it's the type of play where I get why he has 10% ownership. He's only $6,100. He's got a decent matchup with the White Sox. But it's also the type of play where when those guys are getting ownership, I kind of try and avoid it when I can, just because you're talking about a pitcher getting 10+% ownership with a 15.5% K percentage, 4.75 xFIP. In a lot of lineups, you're going to be able to just, sacrifice like one hitter and go cheaper and just improve Dane Dunning to somebody that can actually get strikeouts, especially on a slate like tonight, because it's not like you have a dead mid-range in terms of upside where it's like, well, I can pay 6,100 for Dunning, or I can pay 1,500 more for a guy that strikes out 18% instead of 15. If you can find an extra $1,000 to $1,500, you get access to Kikuchi, Rodriguez, legitimate strikeout guys.
Yeah. I think his ownership is correct. Like he should be around 10% owned. I think that makes some sense. I don't have too much to add. The price tag's really helping because this White Sox team just doesn't look very good today.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not going to look good in general, but they're a bad offense overall this year, and they also traded Jake Berger to the Marlins, so that's one less power bat.
I wasn't really getting to the Rangers. Oddly enough, I was getting to the White Sox to try to attack
no Grandal either. Sebi Zavala's in there.
Trying to attack Dane Dunning. Which team do you think you're more likely to get to?
Texas.
Okay. Talk to me about the Rangers. Obviously, they're going to look a lot better than they did before we started this show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup against Cease, but it's a really good offense. 6% chance of being the top stack before Corey Seager was in the lineup. 5% projected ownership, again, before Seager. They're expensive. Seager is going to make this lineup more expensive as well. Seager, Semien, Young, Garcia in particular are expensive, but you do get some cheaper bats. Lowe is only 4,200. If Jankowski's in there, he's 2,800. Garver's only 3,200. So you don't have to go with, a super expensive stack. And Cease is a good pitcher, but this team still has a 4.6 implied run total. He doesn't give up a lot of power. I don't think there's any particular bat that stands out as a priority other than just saying like, these are the best hitters on the team and they're the biggest priorities. I don't think it's like a splits issue or anything like that, but 4.6 implied run total for a low owned Texas team is pretty appealing.
Any interest in the White Sox against Dunning?
Not really. I mean, Robert Jimenez, those guys obviously can carry a stack. You can hope that Tim Anderson and Yohan Moncada remember that they supposedly can hit for power. But pretty tough to want to get a lot of them. They're inexpensive. I mean, Robert's the only expensive guy in the lineup. So there is that. They rank middle of the pack in stack score for that reason. They're actually slightly ahead of Texas in stack score just because they have a nearly 8% chance of being the top value stack, but certainly prefer the Texas side if I can get there.
James Perkins, Texas stack and single entry cash. No.
I didn't say. All right. I didn't hear what you said.
Texas stack and single entry cash. No.
That doesn't seem right.
Nope. No, it doesn't. And no, the White Sox are not going to do anything regarding Dylan Cease pitching in this game because they're in sell mode. That is also
anything now.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're going to sell concessions today. Yeah. That's about it. Actually, yeah. Oh, they're not even selling concessions. Anything else for this game other than you ranking the game?
No, and I think it's Cease, Texas, Dunning, and White Sox.
All righty. Well, got to talk a little bit about Boom Fantasy. This one's going to be easy. We talk a lot about these pick'em sites on a day-to-day basis. We're talking about Boom today. They had some good free squares earlier. I believe it was Mookie Betts under 999 home runs. Hopefully he's able to get to that one today. But that has already started to happen. That Red Sox game is underway. I don't know if they have any other free squares right now, actually. But if they do, you should take advantage. If they don't, you should still be taking advantage of Boom. Sign up using the link in the description. You get up to $100 on your first deposit. It's going to look a lot like most of the pick'em sites that we talk about. Pick 2, 3, 4 different plays. They got to go over or under their projection. You win if you hit them all. That's the direction that we're trying to go here. But the real key piece, you just want to pay attention to free squares. Whatever site we're talking about, those types of items are going to make you significantly more profitable when you can use them over and over again. Today was Mookie Betts under 995 home runs. He's obviously not hitting 1,000 of them today. That's the type of thing that you could take advantage of. You make a $10 entry. That's the max that you can do. But you make that $10 entry, you're significantly more likely to win that entry just by using that. And you'll get to do that pretty regularly, regardless of, oh yeah, I was putting Mookie on the Red Sox. Eric, good work. I didn't notice that I did it. The Red Sox would like him back. That game has not started yet. That game is at 10 o'clock because Mookie Betts plays for the Dodgers. So use that free square. It does still exist because he's on a different team and I'm a moron. And that's why you should sign up for Boom, because I'm a moron. You're never going to get a better sell job than that. Take advantage of that free square tonight, up to $100 on your first deposit. I bet the Red Sox would like him back.
Even Josh can win this under despite being an idiot.
Oh my God. He was absolutely on the Red Sox too. Well, like I looked to my left, I was like, oh, Red Sox 410. That one's dead. Nope. Yeah, don't play Red Sox Mookie. Well, the Red Sox Mookie is also not going to hit 1,000 home runs today, but God, man, he should still be on the Red Sox. They're incredibly stupid for getting rid of him. That's definitely a true statement.
I'm not mad
about it. If
you
can't keep him, you don't keep anybody.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not mad about it.
Like when you look at that, that's just a guy you keep no matter what.
You would think, unless he's just like, I'm not staying, which wasn't the case.
Right. Yeah, that's just one of those ridiculous ones. How long has it been?
That was the Verdugo trade, right?
I don't remember. He's just always going to be a Red Sox for me.
I actually could always completely forget he played for the Red Sox.
It's been a couple years now.
Yeah,
that's how ingrained it is in my brain.
Since 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's David Price in cash for Verdugo, Connor Wong, and Jeter Downs, who is no longer even with the organization.
Before we go any further, because we're going to pick up the pace once this is over, I got to let you guys know this one. This is big. I know people are going to care about it. 700 and something viewers, 100 and change likes. NFL DFS is back, and it's back tomorrow, right? Tomorrow at the Hall of Fame game. That's what we've got going on. Doesn't matter. Deal for you guys for the NFL. Because there's only one game in the first week. You can get your first week for $1. Click the link in the description. The promo code is HOF 2023. Hall of Fame 2023. HOF 2023. Normally, this is going to be $20 a week or $56 for all 4 weeks of the preseason. You can get the first week of NFL preseason for $1. That's going to be projections, NFL preseason depth charts, premium Discord experience with Matt Kajeski. He's going to be in there eating tuna cans and chugging Four Locos. It's going to be a great time for everybody. Now that the NFL preseason is here, you have a link in the description of this video that will get you our first week of the preseason for $1. No better deal for you if you're interested in the NFL. If I'm you guys and you like the NFL, I take advantage of this. If it's me, I'm thinking, what can I do tomorrow to get out of watching an NFL preseason game? And I'm going to go with absolutely anything, hopefully a painful medical procedure. That sounds awful. Cubs and Reds. 5.7 run implied total for the Cubs is what I had. 4.9 for the Reds. Drew Smyly and Brandon Williamson. We are going to skip Brandon Williamson. We're going to go straight to Drew Smyly. 6,800 7% owned. Should he be owned more?
Yeah, I'm really concerned now. Like I have no idea I haven't known what to make of Drew Smyly all day. So we'll start with he's a slightly below average major league pitcher. He's $6,800. He's in an okay matchup with the Reds, but they still have like a 4.8 implied run total, 20.7% K percentage, 4.73 xFIP, 1.5 home runs per 9. I didn't know why he was projecting as well as he was this morning. And it wasn't just us. Like we had a higher projection on him, but like other places had even higher projections on him. So yeah. I don't know what was showing up in something today or this morning. His projections have come down, which is good, but he still projects like a good point per dollar play. So now that the ownership is down to 6.5%, still interested. Doesn't have the same strikeout upside as Rodriguez, but he is a little bit less expensive. He does project similarly. I don't mind getting the Smyly as an SP2 option. I don't have any amount of confidence in it, but I don't mind it. I think the obvious comparisons are Dane Dunning getting a bit more ownership for $700 less, and Tony Gonsolin getting like 5 times the ownership for $700 more. Gonsolin's got the better matchup against Oakland. He historically is a good pitcher, but he has an xFIP over 5 this year. It's not like he's been great. So like Gonsolin, I think is the guy you get to first there. But if you're getting to some Rodriguez or Smyly as lower owned guys, that's perfectly fine.
What do we have Smyly projected for?
6.5%
points. Projection.
13.4.
Okay. Yeah, I'm at 14.2. So
yeah. And to put it in context, Kikuchi 7,800 coming in at 15, Gonsolin 7,500 coming in at 14.8, Smyly 6,800 coming in at 13.4, and Rodriguez 7,200 coming in also at 13.4. Dunning 6,100 coming in at 11.9. So you're getting them spread out in a way that makes sense when you look at ownership, but it's also not like there's drastic differences here, particularly in the Kikuchi, Gonsolin, Smyly, Rodriguez group from a range of outcome standpoint. 1.5 projected median points is nothing.
That I agree with. Let's talk Cubs bats to start, because we're not talking Williamson. First in top stack, 7th in top value, number 1 in ownership. Are the Chicago Cubs the best stack for today?
Yeah, I mean, they look good. Williamson has been one of the best guys to target all year. He's getting outside of Great American Ballpark, but still 5.7 implied run total for the Cubs. They're reasonably priced. They're putting out a pretty nice lineup. They moved Suzuki from hitting 2nd to hitting 7th. So he's still in there at 3,200 as a value option. But Christopher Morel at 4,800 went from the bottom of the order to the top. So it makes that main stack a little bit more expensive. But Christopher Morel is also one of the best power hitters on this team, even though I doubt anybody that doesn't play DFS or live in Chicago has ever heard of him. He has plenty of power, and moving him up in the order is pretty nice. One thing that does suck is that on DraftKings, Horner and Morel are both second base only, so you actually cannot stack 1 through 5 on the Cubs. But that aside, it's, those two have power from the right side. Dansby Swanson is one of the best plays on the slate. $4,400 shortstop, a position where it's tough to find upside. You're getting a guy with a 200 plus expected ISO against lefties at $4,400 batting cleanup. Very happy to get there. And then the offense just gets very inexpensive with Ian Happ, Gomes, Suzuki, your boy Candelario, and Patrick Wisdom. We've mentioned it before when Wisdom hits 9th, but you're not really going to find a 9-hitter in baseball that has more home run upside than Patrick Wisdom.
No, not at all. Not at all. I really like the Cubs. I'm getting there. I'm happy to. Jake Swales doesn't want to get there because they were good yesterday. They can't be good today.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yep. What do you want to do with the Reds?
They look fine, too. They're a little bit cheaper than usual since they don't have De La Cruz. Now, instead of a $6,100 leadoff guy, you have first base, third base, Kevin Newman at $3K. Senzel's hitting 2nd at $3,200. Suddenly, the only expensive guy in this lineup is Matt McClain at $5,600. While he's still overpriced for his median, it becomes a lot easier to include Matt McClain in stacks when the rest of it is cheap, and you don't really care that he's overpriced. It's when they were all, Friedel was $5K and Fraley's $4,800 and De La Cruz is $6,100. It's all right. How the hell do I get to all these guys plus Matt McClain? That's not as much of an issue now. So from a stacking standpoint, they do look better. Encarnacion and Strand is up to 3K, or is up to 5th rather, at 3K against a pitcher that doesn't miss a lot of bats. Reds look pretty interesting to me as well. They're 4th in stack score, 5.5% chance of being the top value, 10% top stack percentage. So Cubs 1st and Reds 4th in stack score. It almost looks like a game in Cincinnati, except it's not in Cincinnati.
Yeah. I didn't have too much of the Reds, but I did have some scattered five mans here. Don't mind attacking
Yeah,
Smiley.
I didn't get to
all.
a lot of them in the Sims video earlier, but that was also before we got this lineup.
Rank the game.
Cubs, Reds, Smiley, Williamson.
Adams Royals have a 3.9 run implied total, taking on the Mets at 5 run implied total. Cole Reagan's going for Kansas City. Kodai Senga going for the Mets. Reagan's is 6,600 unowned and probably should be. Senga 9,500, 19% owned. What do you want to do here with Senga at 9,500? How does he match up with some of the other pitchers in his price range? This is a guy that I am not getting.
Yeah, I wasn't getting to him in the Sims video earlier, and there was one guy I singled out where, again, if I'm not getting to somebody, I'm not getting to somebody. I'm not going to go change that. But I would really like to be getting more than I was. We have him as the second highest projected pitcher on the slate. We are typically the high mark on Kodai Senga this year, which, again, not necessarily a bad thing. The guy's got a 29% strikeout percentage, 3.78 xFIP, second highest K percentage on the slate behind Ryan. He's facing the Royals in KC, about a 4 implied run total for the Royals. 85 WRC plus on their active roster against right-handed pitching this year. I really like Senga. That, again, is different than me saying I'm going to have a lot of him because last time I checked, I wasn't. But if you're getting to him, I would not at all say I'm more uncomfortable getting to him, not getting to him than you should be in getting to him knowing that I wasn't, if that makes any sense. Like, I would much rather be on the side that's getting to Kodai Senga than one that isn't.
I have 0% right now, which is not.
I had 8 this morning.
What's his strikeout prop? Strikeout prop sitting at under 6.5 minus 150. Okay. Good to know. We don't have to talk about Cole Reagan, so let's talk about the Mets bats. 3rd in top stack, 5th in top value, 3rd in ownership. They certainly look good, but this is not a great park for power. Didn't seem to matter too much yesterday. I know they got a couple dingers. What do you want to do with the Mets?
We just got their lineup, and who is hitting second for them? Oh, Alvarez. Okay. For some reason, it wasn't showing up. This lineup is terrible at the bottom.
Okay.
So no Brandon Nimmo again. You have McNeil leading off. Lefty, but he's cheap. MPE, whatever. Francisco Alvarez hitting second. That looks good. Lindor looks good. Pete Alonso looks good. 2K flat. Mark Vientos hitting 5th. Cool. Brett Beatty, lefty, hitting 6th. Jonathan Arauz hitting 7th. Rafael Ortega hitting 8th. And Danny Mendick hitting 9th. My God, this lineup is bad. The middle of it I like. Again, you're getting a good catcher in Alvarez. You're getting a good shortstop in Lindor. Alonso looks good. Vientos looks good. So I think the Mets are a good stack. We had, before the lineup came out, we had them second in stack score. The middle of the order and the positions they play still makes them a good stack. It's just not anywhere close to the Mets team that there was a chance you're going to get, where you have Nimmo, you have Starling Marte coming back from the injured list. He's still not back. So watered down Mets lineup, but still a decent amount to like with Alvarez, Lindor, Alonso, Vientos in particular.
Sean V also aggressively stupid. Cubs will not score runs because they scored runs yesterday.
Yeah. Never fails. All that means is that you notice when they don't score a lot and you forget about the times that you do.
You know how much it fails? As equally as it did, no matter what they. Yep, exactly. Because yesterday has absolutely no tie to today. None. You can look that shit up.
The only possible tie it has is that the bullpen yesterday could have been overworked.
Yeah, no, they let Lively take that raping.
Right, exactly.
I don't know how to ask this question. Royals bats for the average person.
No. I got to like 8% in the Sims tool, which was in the top 5, but no. 4 implied run total, not a good offense. Again, the reason I get to them is the same reason it always is. Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez are strong at their respective positions. Garcia is cheap for a leadoff guy. Melendez, Massey, there's cheap bats here. You can very easily put yourself in a position where those random games that Kansas City does go off, you have a great lineup around them in terms of pitching, one-offs, mini stacks, whatever. But I don't recommend the Royals. It's a tough spot against Senga. It's a bad offense.
Rank the game.
I guess Mets, Senga, Royals, Regans.
There it is. 4.6 run implied total for the Giants, 3.6 for the Diamondbacks. Logan Webb going for San Francisco. Slade something or other going for the Diamondbacks. 20% ownership to Webb, no ownership to Slade, who will never have a last name because I'm not totally sure how to say it. What do you want to do with Logan Webb in San Francisco?
Yeah, he looks fine here. He's getting ownership. It's not a great matchup against Arizona, but fourth in top 2 pitcher percentage at 18%, 22% projected ownership. He's a really good pitcher, 2.96 xFIP, 25% strikeout percentage this year. Happy to get to him. Good park, 3.5 implied run total for the Diamondbacks. So, like, that is one spot that was interesting. This morning it was 3-3. Now it's 3-5. Still a half run lower than the Royals against Senga. So that is one reason I think why I probably wasn't getting to a lot of Senga. I wasn't getting a lot of Webb either. I was kind of getting out of that price range. Again, Drew Smiley was showing up a lot. But it is interesting to me that the Diamondbacks implied run total is half a run lower because it's something I can't very easily explain. It's in San Francisco, so there's that. But, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily expect this Diamondbacks team to ever have an implied run total lower than Kansas City when Kansas City's facing Senga. So that is interesting. It does make Webb look, a little bit better than Senga.
On a scale of,
you could argue it makes him look a little bit better.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, how much does yesterday's Cubs performance affect today's ownership?
2.
Okay. We're on the same page. And I assume that if you were going to say any other number, it would have been 1 instead of 3.
It wasn't going to be higher.
Yeah. Thank you.
The question is just how much does casual players that don't know what they're doing impact ownership in a tournament with 20,000 entries?
Yeah. And it is minimal at best. Yeah. Maybe if the Cubs were like the Dodgers or the Braves, like they're in people's line of sight and you can get that to like a 2.1 instead of a 2, but
right.
Yeah,
I mean, ownership in general, ownership is being driven by what 150 max players do because they collectively are going to make up the bulk of the field, and they collectively are all using data-driven processes that in no way account for what happened yesterday.
Bingo. Giants bats against Slade.
Yeah. So 4.5 implied run total. The park sucks, but everything is relative, right? Like you don't have great hitters parks on this slate for the most part. You have the Dodgers, you have the Yankees, but you don't have Cincinnati, you don't have the White Sox, you don't have Coors, you don't have Anaheim. So the fact that this game's in San Francisco is a little bit less important. And the thing that I talked about this morning with Lofty that I think is really important with the Giants is the DraftKings pricing has essentially just for a while now taken them and priced them as if every game they play is in San Francisco, which tonight obviously it is, but we also were seeing them at these prices in Cincinnati and Coors. But this is a team full of power hitters. If this team played in like a neutral park, you would just have like household names top to bottom. We talk about how good this Giants offense is. 200 plus ISOs everywhere in this lineup. Lamont Wade's only 3,500, Conforto 3,700. Davis is the most expensive hitter in the projected lineup at 4,100, followed by Peterson at 4K. Slade, I'm going with Ciccone, is not likely to be good at the major league level right now. Maybe he will at some point. He has moved pretty quickly through the minors, but the publicly available projection models on FanGraphs have him between like a 4.8 and 5 FIP going forward. This team, even though they play half their games in San Francisco, has a 173 ISO against right-handed pitching this year. That's a stat that isn't adjusting for park. It is just telling you what has happened despite them playing half of their games here. So on this slate where the opportunity cost isn't as high, you don't have those great parks. You don't have a lot of teams in great matchups. I think they look good. They're fifth in stack score, 5% ownership, 6% chance of being the top stack, 12% top value percentage is highest on the slate. I think they're going a bit on their own.
Do you want any Diamondbacks?
Not particularly. Logan Webb's really good. Obviously, Ketel Marte, my boy. Corbin Carroll. You're not mad about getting to those guys, but it's essentially the Garrett Cole, McClanahan, Cease thing, except also not in Yankee Stadium.
Rank the game?
Giants, Webb, Diamondbacks, Ciccone.
900 people in the house. Hit that like button one last time as we move it on to the final game for today. And don't forget, you can sign up for the Sims tool with the link in the description. $180. If you want the MLB version and you're watching this show, I assume you do. Highly recommended. It's changing up the game. Also a PGA version out there. NFL coming soon. Adam's got Sims videos coming out Monday through Friday. Check those out. Get a little bit of an idea what's going on in the sim world. But you want this tool. If you've got the money, come check it out. Mookie Betts' Dodgers, 5.7 run implied total, taking on the A's, 3.6 run implied total. Pretty big gap here. Tony Gonsolin going for LA, 7,500 and 27% owned. Hogan Harris, 5,800 unowned. What do you want to do here with Gonsolin? Because I think he's probably pretty clearly the best pay down option you can get to thanks to Oakland.
Yeah, he looks like the best mid-range option. There are concerns here. Most of the good pitchers on this slate, the concern has been that they have tough matchups. Here, it's that Gonsolin has a very good matchup against Oakland, but he's been a shell of himself this year so far. 19.7% K percentage, nearly a 10% walk percentage, 5.08 xFIP. More likely than not, he gets things together. He's always been a pretty solid pitcher. So getting him at 7,500, obviously, against Oakland is perfectly fine. 28% ownership, second, actually now projected to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Coles has come down a little bit below that. You can make the case that, he's not a 4-1, 3-1 favorite against Grayson or against Smiley. All of that is true, but he does project very well here against Oakland. He projects as the best pay down pitching option.
Hogan Harris?
Not in this spot. He's an average-ish pitcher. He's not a total gas can. He's probably not as bad as most people assume, given that he's just a random dude pitching for Oakland. But you're getting a big park downgrade. You're in LA against the Dodgers. Really, really tough to get there.
Second in top stacks, second in ownership. How do you want to handle the Dodgers here against Hogan Harris?
They look great if you can get there. They are second in ownership and sixth in stack score because of being expensive. But this is a team where, the 1-5 stack is expensive with Betts, Freeman, Smith, Muncy. But there's a lot of cheap power here too. So you can either just, pay down for pitching, go like Gonsolin, Smiley, and get to the best Dodgers, or you get like three of the really good Dodgers and you pair them with like Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez, and you're still perfectly fine. So I like getting to the Dodgers here. It's a good enough spot against Harris. 192 expected ISO to righties so far this year. They look really good, whether it's 5-mans, 2-mans, 3-mans.
Oakland against Gonsolin. Is there anything there for you?
Not really, other than the ownership on Gonsolin. Seth Brown is good at 3,400. Rooker is good at 3,300. But it's just, if you're going there, it's for the value and negative correlation aspect.
Okay. Do you have anything else for this game?
Nope.
I'll say rank it, I guess.
Dodgers, Gonsolin, or Gonsolin, Dodgers. A's, Harris.
Favorite pitchers for today?
Cole, I guess Kikuchi and Gonsolin, but I don't feel very strongly about pitching today.
Favorite stacks?
Cubs, Reds, Giants. Or actually Cubs, Giants, Dodgers.
MLB Live before lock coming up next. You don't have to go anywhere. Stay right here on this stream. All 900 of you, all 100 plus likes, hit that thumbs up, by the way. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Thanks to Boom for sponsoring. Adam and I are out of here. Enjoy the slate. Peace.
It's the entire show. I'm going to be talking for the next hour. What?
Talking is what we do, Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm just waiting to start.
He's a jib jabber.
Yeah. No, none of this is of significance. If you think that the people can't hear me talking about how Boom Fantasy is the sponsor of today's MLB Live Before Lock show. See, look, Jordan thinks that because I talk before the show starts means I'm not ready, even though, and Neil will back me up in this, by the way, this is the start of the MLB Live Before Lock show. As you guys come in, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, but Jordan says to us, are you guys ready to go? I say yes, you say yes, and then he says, well, I'm not ready yet. And then he sits there quietly and he goes, well, we can't start because you guys are talking.
Right. Like,
is
that really us talking is interrupting the show?
Yeah, it's more or less what just happened. But then the show starts and we're talking anyway. We're not quiet.
We did get that feedback once, like a year or so ago. I think on a football show, we got that feedback that we should stop talking. So
yeah, there was. So by the way, football season starting very soon. In fact, the preseason tomorrow, we have our preseason packages live over at stochastic.com. And there is a link below for you guys to sign up for that. But yeah, last year, Neil and I on our tournament strategy show that we do together every Saturday, somebody did message us and said, you guys talk too much during the show, which was a very confusing feedback because I'm not exactly sure what else we're supposed to do while we're here.
It is tough. So we got somebody in chat called, and Loco has already timed him out, called Cats V. Who do we think Cats V is? This is just like a new monster, Cats V.
Like Brandon Katz and Sean V have had a child.
I think that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious to see what its DFS stakes are.
I'm terrified. Josh H. Smith. I don't know who Josh H. Smith is. Was just scratched.
That is Josh H. Smith.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, like, I don't know how else to explain him.
That answers that.
That's who he is. It's like, who's Corey Seager? He's Corey Seager. Who's Garrett Cole? He's Garrett Cole.
Right.
It's the way it goes. So I believe, let's see, where was
from the Rangers?
Where was he expected to be hitting today? Because I have the old lineup pulled up here in front of me. Yeah, he was expected to be in the 9 hole for the Rangers today, but he's now out of the lineup. And what's all these scratches lately? Like, I understand yesterday, the last couple of days because of the trade
deadline. Buxton was scratched. Yeah.
And then so Buxton was scratched today. And then last night we had like a fake scratch with Alex Cobb where it was undisclosed, might not pitch. And then it was Logan Webb warming up before the game. And all of a sudden Logan Webb stopped warming up and it was Alex Cobb warming up again. So lots of weirdness right now going on in MLB, but we will see what ends up happening with some of the moving parts here. And yeah, we got Larry C in the chat saying that it's because Corey Seager got activated, which Corey Seager was not in the initial lineup. It does look like Corey Seager is going to be starting at shortstop now with Josh Smith heading back to the bench. So, and Chris Williams pointing out another one, our Apple friend, Chris Williams. Joe Musgrove scratched this morning. Yeah, it's been crazy. Just constant scratches. Every slate now. Very weird. So we'll see what ends up happening with some of that situation. And our data team's on top of it. They're going to have updated ownership for us very shortly with all these moving parts, different lineups coming in and out of the mix. But in the meantime, I want to shout out. We're sponsored by Boom Fantasy today. And the easiest money you guys can make today, we're going to do the best to give you all the best DFS advice we could. We've got lineups being run through the Sims. We're going to give you guys a lineup generator. But the absolute easiest way for you to make some money today is sign up at Boom and take advantage of their free square because it is Mookie Betts for under 999.5 home runs. Not for the rest of his career, not for the rest of this, for just today, under 999.5 on a scale of 1 to 10, Neil. How confident are you that the under on Mookie Betts is going to hit over on Boom Fantasy?
As confident as I am that Cats V is not Eric Traub, because I trust Eric Traub, and he said in chat that he is not Cats V. That's how confident I am. 100% confidence.
I don't know that. I don't trust anybody named Eric.
That's a
sketchy name.
Yeah.
It's a sketchy name.
That's true.
But I do trust that Mookie Betts is going to have under 999.5 home runs in tonight's game. So if you guys want to take advantage of this free square, download the Boom Fantasy app using the link that we have below. Promo code Stochastic1 is going to get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. And also up to $100 in bonus funds if your first entry loses. Let's say you go out, you build a card for $100 on Boom Fantasy and it doesn't hit. Maybe Mookie Betts goes out and hits 10,000 home runs today and your first entry loses. It's going to get refunded up to $100. So go take advantage of the free squares and all the offerings available over at Boom Fantasy. And now let's start talking about today's slate, Neil. And as far as pitching goes, on the high end, we do have Logan Webb on the slate today. He was somebody who looked like he was potentially going to be starting for the Giants today. Didn't end up happening. Alex Cobb was able to gut out whatever he was dealing with. And we don't really have any real chalk at pitcher today. Even though it's only an 8-game slate, is it surprising you there's not a single pitcher projected for 30% ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at that threshold, it is like, it's not surprising me that we don't have any super chalk, but yeah, it is very spread out. So yeah, I would say it's fairly surprising to see nobody get even up to 30% on a slate that, it's not like a huge slate. So very, very flat. But honestly, I also don't really think that anybody should be. And obviously the top pitchers tool bears this out. Like, we don't see any pitcher that has a greater than 30% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So surprises me, but also the field's getting it right.
Yeah, we've got, by the way, these are the pitchers that are projected for north of 20% ownership. We have Tony Gonsolin, the most popular, 27.7%. Garrett Cole, 27.3%. Dylan Cease, 25.9%. Yusei Kikuchi, he has risen from the dead, and he's now a fantasy viable pitcher again, 23.6% ownership. He sucked basically all of last year. And then Logan Webb at 22%. So that's it. Those are all the pitchers projected for over 20% ownership. They're fairly grouped together. We don't have a whole bunch of chalk to really discuss. So with that in mind, we do have the one popular payoff option is Garrett Cole, 10,800 on DraftKings, projected for 27% ownership. Are you riding with Garrett Cole as a chalk pitcher, or are your lines going to be looking a little bit different at the high end of pitching?
No, I think I'm riding with Garrett Cole. I mean, it's obviously a really tough matchup with Tampa, but he's also the best pitcher on the board. Looks like the field has it about right. 27% ownership, 28% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I'm probably just going there, as I am rerunning my crunches right now to throw into the Sims tool, because I got right before lock. We had a few things come out that were different than expected, and I thought better to just redo it now rather than running the Sims first. But I imagine I'm going to be running with Garrett Cole just based on what I'm seeing in the tools. He looks pretty good today. Are you getting to a lot of Cole?
I am not really. I'm going a little bit cheaper at starting pitcher, but also like no real crazy stanza pitcher. I'm pretty spread out as of right now. And, let's see, Garrett Cole, I have him in 22% of lineup. So, I mean, like, I'm not like crazy underweight to the field. I'm like fairly close on him, but like, that's kind of how I view pitching today. It's very spread out. There's some guys we'll talk about them differentiating a little bit, but as far as Garrett Cole goes, I think the ownership is more or less efficient. I think our data bears that out. I'm, like I said, pretty close to being in line with the field, within 5% of the field's projected ownership. So I think when you look at Garrett Cole, the matchup against the Tampa Bay Rays is certainly not ideal. But one thing that does stand out about this slate that's kind of making it a little bit easier to pay up for Garrett Cole, and why I do think the ownership is ultimately efficient, is you do have all these teams that are running out fairly shitty-ish lineups compared to normal when we're at post-trade deadline. So you got, like, for instance, let's pull up the Mets lineup right here. Some of these hitters that you have in the lineup, like Mark Ventos, who, by the way, is not terrible by any means. He's, a young prospect, but he's hitting 5th at min price for the Mets. Then you've also got later on the lineup, you got, Brett Beatty, who's also a well-regarded prospect. He's 2,600. So you got a lot of these teams where it's like just in the middle of their order, they've got guys who are moving up that are min price. And it's not like NBA where you've got these min price guys that are in better situations just become like smash value plays, but you mix and match some of these guys. And it does make it so that you can get up to a Garrett Cole, even if on a normal slate, maybe I wouldn't love him at 10,800 against the Tampa Bay Rays. But for today, it becomes a little bit different because of the abundance of cheap hitters that we have. And I do wonder, as more lineups come out and we get like an ownership update on the Mets, maybe I do end up getting a little bit more of them just because we do have a Mets lineup, as you had just talked about before, ended up with some different hitters than we had initially projected it in. And it is an overall cheaper lineup, which could enable us to get up to, some more of these expensive pitchers.
Yeah, no, I think that will be the case. Obviously, they're cheap. They're also not going to be as good probably with the bats that we have in the lineup for the Mets, but they do look good today. So probably my guess would be that you do get to some more Garrett Cole as you get to some Mets in your lineups.
Yeah, so that's the next thing. I'm just waiting on Mets ownership update. Then I'll be running another set of lineups. I've got an initial run that I did here in the Sims. It really gives me like a general overlook of what it is that I'm going to be getting to, and then be a little bit more accurate towards what I'm actually playing when we get that next ownership update. But if you're going to pivot off of Garrett Cole, and by the way, big props to you last night, because I think you probably remember your answer yesterday. when I asked you if you were pivoting off of Spencer Strider, who'd you go to on the high end? By the way, Strider was terrific last night. He scores over 30 fantasy points.
Right.
He was no Framber Valdez, who pitched a no-hitter, who was your contrarian call on the high end. So, Neil, I have to ask you, if you're paying up for a pitcher today who's not Garrett Cole, who's spinning a no-hitter?
Well, as you know, I'm pretty reliant on the tool, so I can't really take credit for the Framber Valdez call. That was more the tools really like Framber Valdez. He looked like he was going a little bit under-owned. Today, I think we see something similar with a few, like a lot of the actual, like the high price pitchers have some positive leverage in the top pitchers tool. I'm going to go straight to my guy, Joe Ryan, 12% ownership, 19% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. And he's on the Twins. Gotta love Joe Ryan. So I think I'd go there. Kodai Senga, maybe I just don't like completely trust him yet just because he hasn't been around long enough. But I do, it's a better matchup. So, and we do have positive leverage there as well. So I think we have some nice pay up contrarian options. Senga coming in at 17% ownership, 21% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I'm breaking the tie to Joe Ryan because he's on my Twins. And maybe I just, he's been around a little bit longer. I trust him. Kodai Senga still feels pretty boom bust to me. So the trust isn't quite there yet, but it's close between those two.
Anybody on the high end that the field is getting to that you don't like quite as much? Because, we do have ownership here pretty spread out. We've got Kodai Senga projected for 17% ownership, Logan Webb 22%. You got Shane McClanahan, who's at 9,300 and projected for 15.3% ownership. So any of these guys that are on the high end that you're finding yourself underweight to relative to the field?
Not really. Like, no, I think that they are all owned, about how much they should be. Like, I don't think there's any of these high-end pitchers that are going way over owned. Just looking at the top pitchers tool, Logan Webb maybe a little bit because he's coming in 22% ownership, 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, but also a fine matchup with Arizona. Not a good matchup, but it's a fine one, better than playing against Tampa or the Yankees. So no, it would be Logan Webb if it's anybody, but I think I'm still willing to go there as well. I'm not sure that I'm going to end up really too far underweight to the field there even. Is there anybody that you're not playing from the high end?
Let's see. For me, it is, I'm well underweight to the field on Logan Webb. I very seldomly get too much of Logan Webb, and I was going to say he's good. He's better than good. He's very good. He's a really, really solid starting pitcher, but he just leaves a lot to be wanted when it comes to DFS upside because he's not the highest strikeout pitcher in the world. He induces a lot of ground balls. So you look at his real life results, really solid this year, 3.49 ERA, 3.61 expected ERA. We just run into the issue where he's expensive and there's always guys that are, and by the way, also, he's almost always projected for ownership. You very rarely get a slate where Logan Webb is, other than like he's pitching in Coors Field. Beyond that, most slates where he's on it, he's expensive. He's projected for somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% ownership, which is the case today. And I almost always find the players priced around to have more upside. You got Logan Webb this year, 24.9% K rate, which is not terrible, but it's not the same as the guys priced around him. Last year was at 20.7%. And then you start to just look at some of his game logs, and it's hard to reasonably project him to have the same ceiling as a guy like Garrett Cole, who's priced, right around him at similar ownership. So when the option is one or the other, it's hard for me to not lean towards Garrett Cole in that kind of scenario. So Logan Webb is the pitch that I'm currently the most underweight to. In my last run of sims here, I did have him in less than 10% of my lineups.
I think that's reasonable. So I am doing I'm running my first sim right now. I crunched out my new lineups running sims. So I'm curious to see what I will get to. It wouldn't surprise me if I am underweight to the field on Logan Webb, just because he doesn't look good in the top pitchers tool, and that's based on sims that the team has run. So I'm using some of the same data. So it wouldn't surprise me if I am underweight to the field on Logan Webb, but he's not like drastically over-owned at 22% ownership. I might be underweight there, but I don't think that he's like crazy high owned.
Yeah, and looking through the rest, there's nobody else that I'm really heavily underweight to at pitcher. I'm a few percentage points underweight to the field on Garrett Cole right now, but that is something, like I said before, I think it's going to come up when I'm rerunning lineups with the Mets and their cheap lineup being in there. So as far as the other as far as the other expensive guys go, the only one that I'm really heavily underweight to the field to is Logan Webb right now. Let's move to the next tier of pitchers, Neil. And, if before we were looking at pitchers priced above 9K, those are kind of the ones that we just grouped together. Let's look at the next set of pitchers where we're looking at 8,900 to 7,000. The pitchers that are picking up the most ownership in this price range is you got Dylan Cease at 8,400. He's projected for 25.9% ownership. Yusei Kikuchi project for 23.6. I'm going to say this though. Now that we just found out that Josh H. Smith has been scratched from the Rangers lineup, and it seems we're going to get Corey Seager in, that is going to make this outlook look a lot worse for Dylan Cease. So I do expect his ownership and his projection to come down a little bit given this recent information. And then Yusei Kikuchi, who's certainly having a better year this year. Can never feel totally comfortable with him being chalk, particularly in a matchup against the Baltimore Orioles. But Cease, Kikuchi, do you like both of these chalk pitchers in the mid-range? Do you like one of them? Do you like neither? Where do you stand with these guys relative to them both being owned in mid 20% range?
Yeah, so I haven't decided if I'm going to negative boost either of them or positive boost even. I'm just looking at my sims for the first time. I got to 64% Drew Smiley in my first set of sims, which I don't love that. So I'm probably going to neg boost him, maybe get to a little bit more. I have 20% Kikuchi, so he is the highest owned for me in the mid range currently. I've got 16% Cease. I think I'm comfortable with those numbers on both of those guys, even with the new Texas lineup. I think that's a reasonable amount of Kikuchi coming in at 24% ownership, 16% chance of being a top two pitcher. So I'm underweight to the field, overweight to his top two pitcher odds. I think I'm fine with 20% Kikuchi. Cease, I'm also underweight to the field, even more so. Cease coming in at 26% ownership. I'm at 16%. I think I'm okay with that also. Like, I'm not going out of my way to avoid getting these guys. I'm also not like trying to jam them in. I'm a little bit underweight to the field on both.
Yeah, I like you. I'm underweight to the field on both of them. I have a feeling though that, like I said, Dylan Cease's ownership and his projections about to adjust. It's just not nearly as good of a. Well, to be clear, it was never a great spot for Dylan Cease against the Texas Rangers because still a formidable offense even without Corey Seager. But now, presumably with Corey Seager back in the lineup, which, by the way, did we get an updated lineup for the Rangers, or was it just yes?
We did. We did.
Yeah. So Corey Seager batting second now. It's Semien, Seager, Lowe, Garcia, Young, Jankowski, Garver, Tavares, Huff. So yeah, now that we have Seager confirmed in the lineup, I'm definitely going to be less apt to play Dylan Cease. I'll pose the question to you this way though: if you had to play Dylan Cease or Yusei Kikuchi, which one would you go to in that scenario? You have to play one.
I'm forced to play one of Kikuchi or Cease. Ooh, man, Baltimore and Texas, like neither of them has a great matchup. It's probably going to be Kikuchi at lower ownership, higher odds of being a top two pitcher and cheaper. So it would have to be just looking at the numbers in the top pitchers tool. Every metric, Kikuchi is favored. He's cheaper, lower ownership, higher odds of being a top two pitcher. It's Kikuchi for me. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kikuchi as well, particularly now that we have Corey Seager back confirmed in the lineup. Like you, I'm going to be underweight to both of them. Hard to feel terrific about each of them. I think relative to their price points, they each have upside, but they have so much downside as well in those matchups that they're in. And then it's terrifying. Remember, we're only a year removed from Kikuchi being actual dog shit as a pitcher.
I know. How much do we trust that this year is a big enough sample size? I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll lean towards Kikuchi here, but don't feel great about either of them. And that's where the field is going in the mid range. If you're going contrarian in this kind of price range, is there anybody that pops out to you?
In the mid range, I mean, Grayson Rodriguez, what was the minimum price we're talking about here in this range?
We're going 7,000 to 8,900.
Yeah, I think Grayson Rodriguez is probably the most interesting. Obviously, not a great matchup in Toronto, but coming in at 8% ownership with an 11% chance of being a top two pitcher. Grayson Rodriguez has shown his talent at times. Price is right for Rodriguez. So I think it would probably have to be Grayson Rodriguez, and we're going to see if there's anybody else who, I mean, yeah, Gonsolin's just not contrarian. Gonsolin is interesting against Oakland, but not really contrarian.
I should clarify. I want to talk about Gonsolin differently because he just is such an easier matchup against the Oakland A's. So I think it kind of warrants his own discussion. I view it. I know that he's kind of similarly owned to Kikuchi and Cease, but I just feel so much better about him at his ownership than I feel about the other two.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Grayson Rodriguez to me. Do you have a different contrarian pitcher you like in the mid range?
At that price point, not really. We'll talk about some cheap guys that I don't mind taking stabs on a little bit, but really, if I have to roster a pitcher in the mid range, just give me the chalk. Kind of like yesterday, where I was like, just give me Lance Lynn. He goes out, he scores 24 fantasy points at a cheap price point. He was safe. He scored the fantasy points that he was more or less expected to. Even I think he was projected for like 19.8 or something like that off the top of my head yesterday, and puts up 24, slightly outperforms it. But he was such a safe option yesterday. And I think we kind of view Tony Gonsolin being the same. He doesn't have the same potential to go in deep into games like Lance Lynn does. It's such a good match for him against the Oakland A's. So I do think if you're playing somebody in this mid-range, just go with Tony Gonsolin. The ownership at 28%, he's, popular, but it's not crazy. Like, I think this is pretty reasonable ownership. Yesterday, we had Lance Lynn at 45% projected ownership. I was still overweight to him, and I don't mind getting overweight to Gonsolin at 28% either.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading chat. People talking about my softball pitching, which, I miss it. I just want to hear what's being said. I think they're just saying that I'm a great pitcher. Is my takeaway from chat right now. Also, they're commenting on your big muscles, Greg. People want to know how often you work out.
Every day, man.
Every day? Do you really? I know that you do hit the gym. You've posted shirtless pics on Twitter before.
So I've got an autoimmune disease. If you don't work out, then you get, so that for me also, I have, because that's what happens. If I don't work out regularly, it makes me sick. It's good for like inflammation.
Oh, really?
To work out. So it's just, so like I view working out the same way as like brushing my teeth.
I mean, that's how all of us probably should view working out.
It's just
maybe not every day, but
it's just something it's part of my routine. It's something I do every day. Also, like I am pretty functional when I'm high. So I have no issue. I could smoke a bowl. I could smoke my bong, and then I could work out for 40 minutes after.
I don't think I could. That's one thing that I could not do. I think my body just gets so exhausted. I don't think I can do it.
No, for especially I could get myself kind of into a mindset where it's just I'll put on TV. I kind of get into the repetitions of it, and I could kind of convince myself like, oh, being tired feels good in this state.
Interesting. Well, good for you.
Marvin H says, if you don't mind me asking, which autoimmune disease? I have Crohn's disease and I have ulcerative colitis. So different like diet changes, stuff like workout. Found it was very helpful for me.
My law school friend who has Crohn's disease is also a workout fanatic. So maybe that's why I didn't realize.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I'm sure it's different for everybody, but for me, I found it to be marijuana, exercise, all things that really helped me a lot. If we go ahead and look at the cheap starting pitchers, and then we'll talk about FanDuel in a second as well. Any punt pitchers that are making it into your lineups in any kind of significant way?
Yes, I am getting, and not because anything I've done, not something that I'm probably going to stick with to this extent. I have 64% Drew Smiley currently. He looks good in the top pitcher stool, so like I guess that's good at least, but 7% projected ownership, 11% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 19% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. I'd love to be overweight to the field. I think he looks great in the tools, but not to the extent that I want 64% against Cincinnati. So I'm going to be trying to get rid of some of that, but currently I'm just getting all the Drew Smiley. Are you getting, did you get something similar, or is something off in my Sims?
No, I'm getting to a pretty good amount of Drew Smiley. I'm going to certainly dial it back a little bit, because he is currently my most rostered pitcher at 8% ownership, which is not what I want to be the case.
8?
He's projected for 8.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yep.
He's projected for 8. Yeah. Though if he was somehow my most rostered pitcher and I only had an 8% of my lineups, that would be that would be quite bizarre. But no, he's
impossible on this. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say impossible on this slate, but I don't think we have 16 pitchers, so not impossible. 16.
Yeah, no, he's projected for 8% ownership right now, and I'm certainly going to be overweight to him, not because I feel good about it in any kind of way, but, we're getting some leverage off of the Reds. They're currently projected for 10.6% ownership, so they're expected to be quite popular. And then Drew Smiley, while he isn't good, he does occasionally spike some upside, and it's just not that great of a slate for cheap starting pitching. And I do think the ownership kind of bears that out in terms of the field not really knowing what to do with cheap pitchers, because if you look at the pitchers that we have projected for ownership here, the only one projected for north of 10% ownership who's below 7K is Dane Dunning at 11% projected ownership. So I think Dane Dunning warrants some consideration. But if you want to take a stab at a cheap pitcher today, there just aren't that many options to go to. I think the ownership on Dane Dunning is warranted. And Drew Smiley, I like getting a little bit overweight to the field, but it's certainly not a confident option.
Yeah, not confident enough that I want 64%. So I'm similar about I'm getting to a ton. I'm going to be dialing it back a good amount, though.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as DraftKings pitching goes? If not, we'll do a recap of the FanDuel pitching, which, is going to largely be a lot of the same talking points, but still, we're going to hit on it for the people.
I mean, Cole Reagans looks good in the top pitchers tool. I'm surprised to see how much I'm getting of who am I getting to? Not I'm not finding him. Who am I? Drew Smiley. When Cole Reagans also looks really good at 6,600. So Drew Smiley, 7% projected ownership, 19% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Cole Reagans getting just 1% ownership with a 13% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher, 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So I'm just like, based on how good he looks in the top pitchers tool, I'm a little bit surprised I'm not getting more, but it's a terrible matchup against the bats. I'm not like dying to get to a bunch of Cole Reagans, but I'm a little bit surprised I'm not getting some just based on the top pitchers tool. I don't think there's anybody else that I'm dying to get to. Dane Dunning, kind of interesting. Did we talk? Did you give your spiel on Tony Gonsolin?
Just that he's the guy to play in the mid range. Yeah. He's got him. He's at home. Last year was a definite smoke and mirrors year. We're not going to see another year where Tony Gonsolin just goes out and has. I'm going to pull up all of his luck numbers just so I have all the correct data in front of me. But he ran just incredibly well in terms of things like BABIP and strand rate last year, and none of it's sustainable. So he's still a solid starting pitcher, though. But like, you're never going to see last year. He had a 2.14 ERA, 3.12 ERA. He had a 207 BABIP last year, an 83.8% strand rate. Like, you just won't find very many years where a pitcher gets luckier than that. So this year, he's definitely regressed a little bit, but I still think that he's a overall quality caliber starting pitcher for his career. He's a 2.91 ERA, 3.77 FIP. He's at home in a pitcher-friendly park going up against just absolute terrible Oakland A's offense. So if you're going to be playing somebody in the mid-range, I think Gonsolin is the one who makes the most sense. He's going to be popular, but not overly so. I think 28% is a pretty reasonable mark there. So I like Gonsolin in the mid-range over the likes of Dylan Cease and Yusei Kikuchi.
We got a question about Slade Ciccone, and I'm trying to look up his. It looks like he was in the PCL last year, which that's the like Coors Field on steroids, right? Like, so it's a terrible place to pitch in the PCL,
it's really hard to get any kind of real good information about pitchers or even hitters for that matter, because hitters will go play there. And it's like, imagine if you were playing on Coors Field on steroids every single day.
Yeah.
It's just all the offensive number. It's a really stupid place to develop prospects, because I would imagine too, that's got to just wreck the confidence of a young pitcher. Just you're trying to work on your pitch mix. You're trying to figure stuff out, and you're just getting annihilated every single start. Right. So it's really, really hard to pull away decent information from the PCL because of how hitter friendly it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like his strikeout rate. I think it looks like he gets about 1 strikeout per inning. So strikeouts looking okay. He doesn't project extremely well for us, but like, this might be a spot where it's like kind of an upgrade coming from the PCL to pitching in San Francisco. Terrible ERA, like 6.5 or so ERA in the minors. Yeah, 9.07 strikeouts. Basically, every year of his career has been around 9 strikeouts per game per 9 innings. So I don't know. I don't think I'm playing any Slade Ciccone to answer your question. Looks kind of interesting just being a pitcher that we've never seen before, but he's 6,500. I'd have probably more interest if he was at the 4K minimum for pitchers that come in, but even at 1% ownership, I don't really see myself. I don't think I'm getting to any. We don't have projected.
Yeah, I am not playing a Slade Ciccone today. I'm not positive how his name is pronounced, to be totally honest here. But yeah, he's not making it into my lineups. We have him with the lowest projection of any pitcher the entire day, and I just find him to be largely unnecessary. Talking about the FanDuel pitching here for a second, and if you're going to play somebody on the high end, I mean, the ownership, as spread as it is on DraftKings, even more so on FanDuel. Garrett Cole is 12% owned on FanDuel. To me, I think that's the pretty easy pay-up pitching option. I'd rather play him than Kodai Senga or Logan Webb, Joe Ryan, and modest ownership, 12%. So I like getting to Garrett Cole over on FanDuel. The other popular pitcher on FanDuel on the high end is Logan Webb. He's 10% owned compared to 12% for Garrett Cole. Give me Cole for the 2% more ownership, a lot more strikeout upside than what Logan Webb has. And then if I'm going cheaper, Dane Dunning, $7,400 against the Chicago White Sox. Yesterday also, I went with Andrew Heaney as a contrarian pitcher that I liked. He ended up putting up a pretty good game. Dane Dunning, this White Sox team, I don't think people realize how bad this lineup is likely to be in the second half of the year. Dane Dunning's only $7,400 on FanDuel. The pricing is a little bit different than DK. We don't have that many cheap options to go to. So I'm going to be expensive, I'm going to Garrett Cole. If I'm going to be cheap, it'll be Dane Dunning. If I'm playing somebody in the mid-range, it'll be Tony Gonsolin, $8,400. So I'm going to ask you the same question, Neil. Pay up option on FanDuel, mid-range option, value play. Who would you go with in each of those categories?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on Garrett Cole. It just makes a lot of sense. I mean, Senga is getting it is sort of interesting because Garrett Cole is getting to 15%, or my latest update shows 15% ownership with an 11% chance of being a top pitcher. Senga is actually not that far behind in terms of top pitcher odds, 9% chance of being the top pitcher. So based on the top pitchers tool, I would probably be more inclined in a single entry to go to Senga. It's hard for me to trust anybody as much as I trust Garrett Cole. The matchup is tough. It's possible, you need the quality start is a big thing on FanDuel. Maybe with a tough matchup makes it a little bit less likely for Garrett Cole to get through 6 innings. So maybe, that's a bigger factor, something to think about. But and also the win against Tampa. So there are factors going against Garrett Cole on FanDuel. Maybe I'd consider Senga or Joe Ryan. Ryan's coming in 3% ownership, 8% chance of being the top pitcher. So, we got some positive leverage similar to last night. There's one pitcher who is the clear best pitcher, and that's Cole tonight. It was Strider last night. But then there are some you can get, lower ownership on other pitchers who still have pretty good upside here. So, probably Cole is the first guy I'm going to, but I don't hate the idea of going to Joe Ryan or Kodai Senga in his stead. And then on the low end, I guess you could go to Dane Dunning 7,400. I like that call for sure against the White Sox. I don't know if there's anybody else. I probably Drew Smyly. I guess I would get to some Drew Smyly on FanDuel as well at 8,000. And we talked about Grayson Rodriguez being kind of interesting. Even Gonsolin is still only 8,400 on FanDuel. So we've got some decent options on FanDuel.
Anything else you want to add at all about pitcher? If not, Jordan, get ready for us to use the lineup generator.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add.
All right. And also, while you're pulling that up, Jordan, we have a super chat here to answer from Brandon Wagner. He wants to know weather concern for the Cardinals game. Minimal. I'm not going to say that there's a 100% chance the game goes off with no issues, but it's not enough of an issue for me to really be getting off of it. So for today, kind of like yesterday, where people were asking us about a little bit of rain here and there in Coors Field, not anything I'm massively concerned about. I'm rolling with everything as is, not changing anything based on weather, not pulling anything out of my ownership or anything like that. So nothing changing for me on that front. And I want to go and check our Discord to make sure there's no questions I missed in there. And we do have a couple of questions here. One is from Einstein. Do you know why Cole is getting so much more ownership than Joe Ryan? He's just a better real life pitcher. That's really the main reason.
Yeah. Yep.
The other part of this, Bossborough wants to know what are our thoughts on Shane McClanahan.
Tough matchup. Good pitcher, tough matchup.
The issue I have with McClanahan is he's benefited from so much good luck this year, and he was exceptionally good last year. And even at the start of this year, he was pitching really well, and then he kind of started to tail off a little bit. It didn't show in his ERA or anything like that, but you look at his overall numbers now. He does have a 3 ERA, but he's a 3.91 expected ERA and a 3.78 FIP, which, not indicators of a bad starting pitcher at all, but his strikeout rate is down from last year. And a lot of this, a 275 BABIP, 83.3% strand rate. These numbers are going to regress. And I still think McClanahan is very, very good. I just don't think he's quite as good as he used to be. And so at 16% ownership, I just don't have a real strong take on him. My last run, I was underweight to the field on him, but nothing significant. I was a little bit underweight. I don't have any kind of real strong stance here on McClanahan.
I have 20%. So I'm actually above weight to the field on McClanahan. He shows some positive leverage in the top edges tool, 15% projected ownership, 17% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So yeah, don't feel confident playing Shane McClanahan, but he does have some positive leverage, and I am getting to a little bit above the field, kind of in line where I'd like to be based on the top pitchers tool.
All right. So let's go ahead, and we got some questions about stacks too. Hit on those in a second once we get to stacks. But first, the MLB lineup generator, which you guys have not signed up yet, you're missing out if you haven't checked out our MLB lineup generator tool, especially if you're a newer DFS player and kind of trying to navigate the streets. How do you build good lineups? How do you get, good correlation between your players? this tool is going to take care of it for you. Because in the MLB lineup generator, you click a couple buttons, you make a couple of suggestions, like do you want to play contrarian lineups? Do you want to play chalky or balanced lineups? And from there, it is going to do the heavy lifting for you. It is going to build up to 20 lineups that we are projecting to be plus EV based on our simulations for you on DraftKings, on FanDuel, whatever site it is you play on. And then you upload those directly to the site you're playing on. When you sign up for the first time using the link below, less than $5, you get access to this tool for. But let's start by looking at DraftKings, Jordan. Let's go. Do you want to go balanced or contrarian today, Neil?
So I like to do all lineup types. I like to just let it roll with everything.
All right. Neil wants everything. Give him the buffet.
Give me the buffet. I want to see that bottom meter jump all over the place from the chalky to contrarian. It's just fun to watch it jump.
All right. Neil wants the buffet. The buffet of lineups. A little bit of everything here. By the way, shout out to Chris Williams, our friend from the Apple Store, who has gifted us out 5 Stochastic YouTube memberships. So 5 people in chat are about to randomly be gifted a YouTube membership from Chris Williams. Chris, we appreciate the support and thank you for that. It is very, very much appreciated. And by the way, Domingo Germán is going to be out for the rest of the season. So Domingo Germán, who quite the fall from grace, where he pitched a perfect game, what was it, a month ago? His entire rest of the season's been terrible. His numbers are all awful. He's gotten lit up on multiple starts, and he pitches a perfect game, doesn't really have very many good starts since then, loses spot in the rotation, and now it looks like he is going to be done for the year. So Domingo Germán on the restricted list by the New York Yankees.
Didn't Josh win a ton of money with on that complete game?
He did. Josh came in, what was it? First and third in the $15 that day. And by the way, his only out to winning was for Germán to pitch a perfect game. He needed the perfect game.
Wow.
Because he needed all the bonuses.
Man, that's good for Josh.
Yeah.
Did not help me that night.
No, it didn't help me either. The funny thing too is I was underweight to the field on Germán, because I remember this very well. I was underweight to the field on Germán. Josh was as well. We actually had the same ownership to Germán that night. He just happened to have a couple of his best lineups at Germán. Shout out to Chris Williams again, gifting out 5 more YouTube memberships. Thank you, Chris. We really do appreciate that once again. Stack exposure, we're getting to all, and I mean all of the Chicago Cubs here. Ian Happ in about half our lineups. Then we got Swanson, Horner, Morel, Patrick Wisdom. This is by far most rostered stack. Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, can you click back on that stack exposures tab so we could see what it is that we got of each team? Yeah, Cubs, 61%. Reds in 28% of lineups. Rangers, 22. Mets, 17. Are the Cubs a team you're getting a lot of exposure to as well, Neil?
Yeah, I believe I am. Let me turn on my stack exposure. Yes, I'm getting to 26% 5-man stacks of the Cubs. So not as much as we're getting to in the lineup generator, but I said in my lineup generator video that I was getting to like 65% was the most I was getting of any Cubs, and I was saying I essentially would like to get to 50% or lower on every Cubs bat. We just got that right here right away. So I'd be okay with just this 20 lineup set that we got to. I don't mind being heavy on the Cubs.
All right. So there we go. You've heard it. You've heard it from Neil himself. He does not mind being heavy on the Cubs. He's also mentioned he likes the buffet of lineup so far. So Neil, a glutton today. Give him everything. He wants all of it.
Give me it all.
We've got like a duel going on because Malukar just gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. So we've got Chris Williams, Malukar gifting out. It's a holiday. People must know that it is my birthday later on in this month. I think that's what's coming.
Oh, is it really? You're an August guy? It is my birthday. Are you a Leo?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Really? Like, I don't it doesn't mean anything to me, but I know that I'm a Leo.
I don't know the things. So
I don't know the other things.
Like I know there's stars in the sky. People think that matters like or something or another.
Chinese zodiac or something. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Is that what a Leo is? I don't know.
It is something to do with the stars, right? And it's supposed to be because where the stars are, people think that it impacts the decisions you make or something. It's a convenient way. It's a convenient way for people to remove any kind of ownership of the decisions they make. Be like, what do you mean I have to go to jail? I'm a Capricorn or whatever. Because it's just a way for people to be like, no, I'm not actually responsible for my shortcomings. It's because of where the stars are situated in the sky.
Did Jordan just put his face on the screen to make a face at you, or is that just on our screen?
Jordan loves astrology.
Yeah, Jordan.
Do you know why Jordan loves astrology? Because he's a 16-year-old girl. That's the reason why.
Yeah. That's the only reason that you should.
All right, let's go ahead and build out some FanDuel lineups now and see what it is that is popping up. In the meantime here, a Guitar Z-Man 247, he's gifted out 5 stochastic YouTube memberships. So shout out to Guitar Z-Man in the chat. We appreciate you. And yeah, thank you to everybody who's gifting those out and helping support us here. Same balance, or actually all lineups again, Neil?
Yeah, I like all lineups.
All right. You like it. Neil's never seen a lineup he doesn't like.
That's right. I mean, I happen to know, Greg, that every single lineup that you get in the lineup generator is a plus EV lineup. So how do you not like them all?
All right. Boy, so far, I don't think I've seen a single lineup without a Cubs hitter.
A lot of
79% Cubs stacks here. We've got a whole bunch of Reds, Giants, Dodgers, but the team we're primarily getting to over here on FanDuel is going to be the Chicago Cubs, which I don't have any issue with. That's the team that I'm going to be stacking the most of today. I like getting to the Cubs. It makes sense on DraftKings. It makes sense a whole bunch on FanDuel as well. Let's look at the player exposures and see which pitchers we're getting to here. Garrett Cole, no surprise there. We're getting to, let's see, keep scrolling down. There's got to be some other pitchers here. There we go. Drew Smiley, only 10%. Then we got Shane McClanahan, 11%. So yeah, primarily getting to Garrett Cole over on FanDuel and really spread out behind him. So I don't mind that as a build on FanDuel. If you guys are playing a handful of lineups, go Garrett Cole maybe in half of them and then mix some pitchers, throw them in with the rest of your lineups. It's a good way to go about it. Anything else you're noticing about the FanDuel lineups here?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I'm comfortable with the exposures that we're getting here. A lot of Cubs once again. I think I was getting to a lot of Giants on FanDuel as well, if I remember correctly. They look pretty good in the tools. But yeah, overall, happy with these lineups. Benny Levine, by the way, Greg, you weren't on the show, so I wanted to ask you this. I was on a show with EMAC where he was making references to like old movies and like quoting them and stuff, and I didn't know what he was talking about, of course. Benny Levine says, one dude never saw The Natural, the other doesn't know his sign. So, Greg, have you seen The Natural?
I have seen The Natural. By the way, shouldn't it be like a compliment if you don't know astrology in some sense? Like, is this like information that any of us need to know?
I don't know why I know, to be honest.
Maybe because you're secretly also Are
you going to call me 16 years old, Greg?
Girl.
That's man. Girl. I know I look 16. People say that all the time.
I figured you feel better about that too. Now we can make you old. Make you younger after I made you older. That's right. Before.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I take it as a compliment.
All right, let's go ahead and start talking about some stacks. But oh my God, more people gifting out the YouTube memberships there. Let's hit on some super chats first. Mr. CoolCam97 wants to know favorite stack for FanDuel single entry. It's the Cubs. The Cubs are my squad today. I like them for large field tournaments. I like them for single entry. Yeah. If you're playing one lineup on FanDuel, Neil, especially based on the results we just saw from the lineup generator, would the Cubs be the team, or is there something else you're seeing in the top stacks that might make you go with a different answer?
It might be. Cubs are definitely in contention. I gotta love playing my Twins. Maybe I consider playing the Twins. I want to say the Giants based on the top stacks, but it's so hard for me to play the Giants, knowing the pinch hit risk. Cubs certainly up there. Dodgers also actually have a little bit of positive leverage. Great matchup, but yeah, Cubs might be the answer there.
The other thing too to consider when it comes to the Giants, they made trades for even more guys they could platoon with. Like that's the last thing that we needed the Giants to do is like trade for AJ Pollock at the trade deadline, somebody who only hits left-hand pitching and like can't really hit righties well at this point in his career. So it's just going to be a mess for this team when it comes to the pinch hitting, even more so than normal as we head into the second half of the year.
How would you feel about Baltimore?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
How would you feel about Baltimore as a single entry stack? They're kind of interesting to me. It was for FanDuel though, right? Was he asking for FanDuel or?
Yeah.
I like him better for DraftKings, but still on FanDuel, kind of interesting.
For DraftKings, yes, because you might be getting some leverage off Kikuchi. But with that said, I think Kikuchi is going to be much less owned in single entry than in large field tournaments.
That's true. You don't have, and plus, like part of what you like is Rushman, like being catcher eligible, like one of the better catchers. He'll come in lower owned, I would assume, on FanDuel. Typically, you get catchers at really low ownership, so there's that benefit. But in general, I think I like Baltimore better on DraftKings.
Some other questions we have here. Ryan Rennebaum left us a super chat, said, yo, what's up with tiers, Ehrenberg? It's been a minute since we got a super chat about the tiers. You want to pull up Josh's Twitter account and see what he's got over there, and we'll check out some tiers?
Yeah. Let's do that.
And I'm going to run some tiers lineups here as well. We haven't had a super chat about it in a while, so I didn't run tiers lineups ahead of time, but
I do have Josh's ready. So if you want me to start, I can go first and you can go second.
Sure. I mean, it's literally going to take me 10 seconds to run this. So just go with tier 1, who you got to, and then I'll say who I have the most in tier 1.
Yeah. So tier 1, I have 2 Dodgers at the top. Mookie Betts first, 27%. Freddie Freeman, 25.5% are my top 2. And I guess Ellie De La Cruz, I should say, is 0.1% behind Freddie Freeman as well. But it's Betts, Freeman at the top for me.
Freeman 1, Betts 2 for me. A lot of Dodgers are going to show up predominantly in tiers here. Tier 2, what are you seeing there?
Yep. Will Smith, number 1 at 23% for Josh.
So for me, I'm getting to Will Smith the most as well. So Will Smith, the guy in tier 2, and that's correlating pretty nicely with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts in tier 1. Tier 3, what's standing out the most to Josh there?
Yeah, no Dodgers here, so we got to Bobby Witt Jr. the most, 18%. Actually tied Bobby Witt Jr. and Matt McClain, both at 18.1%.
Adolis Garcia for me in tier 3. Tier 4, we've got the option to go back to the Dodgers. I like Max Muncy the most. Is that what Josh liked as well?
No, kind of surprised that we did not go back to the Dodgers here, but I guess we started a little bit of Mets correlation. Francisco Lindor, number 1 for Josh, 17.5%.
Okay. Yeah, so I think something else here is even if it was close between a couple other players, like I just go with Max Muncy for the added correlation.
Yeah.
So Muncy for me in tier, what was this? Tier 4. Tier 5. What does Josh have in tier 5?
Tier 5, Josh has, here's where the Mets stat comes in. Brandon Nimmo, 19.1%.
Chris Morel for me in tier 5. Tier 6. I have Nico Horner, so a little more Cubs exposure. What did Josh have in tier 6?
Josh also has Nico Horner.
All right, there we go. So that is going to wrap it up for us in the tiers. Ryan Rennebaum, thank you very much for the super chat. And now if we go, Tim Lee wants to know what is our favorite single entry stack and pitcher. So for pitcher, I'm going to say Tony Gonsolin. In terms of favorite single entry stack, it is the Cubs, whether you're playing on FanDuel or DraftKings.
Yeah, it could be. Cubs are certainly one of the answers to give. I'll go somewhere else just because you're going Cubs, just to give 2 different options. Okay. I think on DraftKings, I'm kind of looking through. Man, my Twins have some nice positive leverage. Maybe it probably would be the Twins for me, coming in at 5.2%. No Buxton today, but that means you can play a little bit of a cheaper lineup for the Twins. 5.2% projected ownership, 12.3% chance being the top point per dollar stack, and 7% chance being the top stack. So positive leverage all around for the Twins today. So I'll go there.
And by the way, the Giants lineup just came out. I saw somebody asking about it in chat, so I'll just read it off right here. Wade, Conforto, Flores, Peterson, Bailey, Davis, Crawford, Diaz, and Matos. Somebody in the chat had asked, are Crawford and Peterson both going to be in the lineup? I was going to say yes, and the lineup came out and the answer confirmed to be yes. So both of them are in. And by the way, Slayer OKZ, I think he might have triggered the lineup showing up. Kind of like how, it used to be back in the day, like you'd say Brandon Katz's name a bunch of times, and you would just pop up in the YouTube chat. I kind of think it's the same thing right here because somebody mentions the Giants lineup, and then lo and behold, here it is. So in terms of stacks overall, are the Cubs ultimately the team you're getting the most exposure to, Neil?
They are. Let me double check my work here. Texas, actually, I'm getting to more Texas than the Cubs. I did not realize that. I'm getting to Texas first and foremost. Cubs number 2.
Okay. And by the way, from Texas, then how much of Corey Seager did you ultimately end up getting to? I'm curious to see what actually ends up happening with his ownership because, not in the initial lineup and then ends up getting it added in. You've got some ownership on Dylan Cease on the other side. I think it could be interesting. We could see Seager go low owned just because he was a late inclusion into the lineup.
Oh shit! So I have 0 Corey Seager. I have Josh H. Smith in my lineup. So
good thing I met.
That is a good. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't realize that I did my crunches before that change. I thought I had. All right, so I've got some moves that I need to make here.
Good thing I asked you that question.
Yes. All right. Good to know. Maybe I won't be doing 2,000 Maybe I'll rerun Sims with fewer lineups.
So if I'm looking at my stack exposures, the team I get the most of is the Cubs in here. The Mets are going to be my second most owned stack, which is primarily just due to pricing, because you've got hitters at the top of the Mets lineup that are actually decent. And then at the bottom, you've got hitters that are really cost effective, like Eventos, who's min price. So I think what you want to do when you're stacking the Mets, and one of the reasons that I'm getting to them here, is you're able to play actual good hitters like Pete Alonso, but then you're able to mix in some of the bottom of the Mets order is absolutely terrible today. But if you just have one or two of those guys in a stack, it does give you a lot of cost savings. And then also, by the way, Chris Williams giving out another 5 YouTube subscriptions. So we've got Chris Williams gifted 1, Malakar gifted 1, Chris Williams gifted 5. So thank you guys for all the support.
That's
definitely,
awesome.
Definitely do appreciate it. Lots of it's the kind of like in the DFS world, the sim wars are going on. Now we've got the YouTube gift wars going on in the YouTube chat.
Oh, I'm cheering for both of you guys.
Double check Discord to make sure we didn't miss out on any questions. We did get one right here. This is Ant8604. He said, I take offense to that 16-year-old girl comment, as I am an astrologist. Oh my God. So, Ant, number one, I don't believe you. Not for a second do I believe that you're an astrologist. And then if you are, you probably make your baseball lineups based on BVP.
It's like, maybe I don't really know what an astrology, like astrology versus astronomy. This is all kind of like stuff that I don't really know what the words mean.
Astronomy is legitimate.
Astronomy is like the study of space.
So astronomy, like you're looking at physics and outer space and stuff like that. Astrology, you're just looking at the stars, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be moody today.
That's is that a real profession? Is it like a fortune teller essentially?
It's a profession in the same way that like Vegas Dave had a profession in sports betting.
Sure. Is he no longer around?
I don't know. I feel like he should have gotten arrested at this point. I don't really know though. He had so there's this guy, Vegas Dave. He had a sports betting package he used to offer where if you paid him, it was like $20,000 for the baseball season. He guaranteed to go 162-0 if you paid for his premium package.
Yeah. I agree with you. He should be arrested, but I don't think he has been.
What happens is you get like a couple of doofuses to sign up for this package, and then they realize they've been had because the second game of the year it loses, and then you're like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, but no refunds. And the other thing too is the way that he does these, because this was one of my favorite people to check out on Twitter, is he would just find whatever the biggest favorite of the day was, that would be the bet. And then they would lose, and it would be like, well, this can't happen.
Just a scam.
Yeah. Interesting. And somehow he was like engaged to Holly Sanders from I think she was like ESPN, Fox Sports, something. Baffling stuff.
Did she also date one of the Trump kids, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I have no clue. I listen, I'm only up on my Vegas Dave information.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm not even current on my Vegas Dave information, because the main reason I'm not is because he made his Twitter account private, which was very upsetting news. Anyway, if we look back at the MLB DFS slate, at the top end, the Cubs are the team I get the most of, followed by the Mets. Are there any contrarian stacks you're liking today, Neil? Any teams that are not projected for that much ownership that are making it into your builds?
Yeah, I mean, the Twins, to the extent that you consider them contrarian, 5% ownership, I do like them quite a bit. Oakland looks interesting against Tony Gonsolin, coming in at 3% ownership, 4% chance to be in the top stack, and 10% chance to be in the top value stack. So I don't actually think I'm getting to a ton of Oakland, but they at least look good in the top stacks tool. We don't really have that many like super low owned stacks that look like they're going under owned today. You can make a case for the Yankees, certainly. Tampa is actually kind of interesting. I think maybe it was Chunk Deuces said earlier that he's playing Tampa and he's going to know within the first few minutes if it's going to work out against Garrett Cole. I think that is a fair assessment of Tampa today. If they can get to Cole early, they're going to be looking good. Otherwise, it's probably in for rough sledding there. Not really any like super contrarian teams. There aren't that many really contrarian teams on this slate. Are there any that you're getting to a lot?
Let's see. So if we look at the overall stack exposure of some of these teams, the Mets are actually projected for ownership. And I'm wrestling with this a little bit here, Neil, because I do get the most exposure to the Cubs, but I am I've got a comparably projected Mets lineup right here, and I'm kind of weighing the two of them. I might go with the Mets instinct. I've only got like a minute to make this decision. All right. I'm going to coin flip app on my phone. Mets or Cubs is my single entry team. Mets it is. All right. So that's the lineup I'm going to play in single entry. I've got two really comparable projected Cubs and Mets lineups. I think both of them are good stacks. So the two teams I get the most exposure to. As far as really low owned stacks, if the Baltimore Orioles count, I know we talked about them before. If you're actually going to be having Yusei Kikuchi be mid 20% owned large field tournaments, the Orioles team at 5% ownership, I'm overweight to the Orioles. It's not crazy contrarian, but 5% I am overweight to them. So Baltimore Orioles, are you overweight to that number? I know we've talked about them being a leverage spot.
Yeah, I do like the Orioles today. I'm rerunning crunches now because again, I had a lot of players in there that Josh H. Smith being the primary one I need to get out of there. So it'll be probably a new set of lineups here for me. I hope I'm going to try, if I have time, to get overweight to the field on the Orioles.
So one easy thing you could do as well, Neil, is if you do want some Orioles and you appear to be a little crunched for time, no pun intended, as you're building out your lineups, you go into the Sims tool and you just do like a flat 10% ROI boost to the Orioles, and that'll make them show up in like a few more lineups. I'll do that if I'm really pressed for time.
You can do it to the whole team?
Yeah.
Or individual players? Really?
The whole team. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I was just doing individual players.
Yeah. I'll have to teach you how to use more of the tools on the website. It is a feature that was not there as of it's one of the newer features in the tool.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. So the other way I find it really helpful is for weather scenarios, where if there's a game where it's like, hey, I don't really know what to do with the weather here. I'm kind of on the fence if it's playing or not. And maybe I have them like 15% of lineups. Like I might just give them an ROI downgrade, and then they'll like still show up in some lineups, but it'll kind of weed some of them out. So I'm not as exposed to a bad weather situation. So that's primarily what I use it for, is for some of those weather spots.
Arcathello says he's going back to the sorry Blue Jays. I don't hate that either. Don't hate the Blue Jays today.
The sorry Blue Jays, as they would say.
Sorry Blue Jays. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will go ahead and look at some of the really.
Oh, Malakar. Good point. He says home run picks. And I say good point because, I got it right again yesterday, right?
I'm trying to remember who you picked yesterday.
Mookie Betts.
I don't remember who I picked.
I don't remember who you picked yesterday.
I have zero recollection.
Yeah.
It's my birthday this month. I'm getting older and the memory's going.
Yeah. You're coming up on 50, right?
I'm going to be 20.
Wouldn't it be great if I could flip this on you?
You're not going to be able to.
The people aren't going to get behind this.
No. So do you want to know why it's going to go poorly for you? Because the response is going to be that nobody will buy that I'm 50, but it's easy to believe that you are 50.
I know. So we don't need to go down this path. I don't think.
You could try. I will say though, if you come at the king, you best not miss, and this could go very poorly for you. I should go
the opposite way. As Sotek says, Greg is 15. People could buy that.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be wonderful. Life was terrific at 15. Anyway, in terms of really contrarian stacks, I just uploaded my final set of lineups, and it looks like I didn't fuck anything up, which is always a positive. You like when those lineups go in good. We've got some teams here that are projected. The one thing that stands out probably the most to me in our projections, we have the Royals project for 6% ownership. That seems very high. I think that is a team to be underweight to. I also like the Rangers at 5% ownership. The Rangers are another team that I like being overweight to. We got Corey Seager back in the lineup. Dylan Cease is projected for ownership. So that's another spot that I like where we're getting some leverage on. But we can do some home run picks here before we head out for the night, Neil. And as you look up and do all your research for your home run pick, I want to ask you guys to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you haven't checked out our podcast channel, go ahead and subscribe to the Stochastic Daily Fantasy Podcast channel, because we're going to be having, once football season starts, some podcast exclusive content. I was planning it out with Lofty yesterday. We had a very long meeting talking about different football content we're going to do. You're going to want to check out what we have going on for football on the podcast channel. So subscribe now, get ahead of the curve. But Neil, what is your home run pick for the day?
First, I'll have you know that I did get a set of 50 lineups in there. It probably has some dead players, and so I'm gonna have to make some adjustments. But I was doing that rather than pulling up my home run picks, but I'm working on it right now, running that model as we speak. I'm going to have it in 1 second. Do you have yours ready to go?
Dansby Swanson. That is my most rostered hitter of the day. He's also, by the way, the hitter I have the most exposure to in best ball in the second half of the season. He's been killing it for me. So Dansby Swanson, nice. I'm gonna be picking him. The Cubs scored a gazillion runs yesterday. I hope they do it again.
Well, I'm on a streak right now with my home run pick. So I'm going. Sotek says repeat home run pick. Bets. Maybe he runs a similar model to the model that I run. I have bets with a 31% chance of hitting a home run again today against Hogan Harris. So I'm going right back to Mookie Betts.
So Eric's on vacation golfing right now. It's going to be myself and Neil doing the show the next couple of days. For people that are stochastic subs and have access to the same data that Neil has, I want you to start undercutting him. When we do our home run picks, before I ask him what it is, I want you guys to all put in the chat what Neil's home run pick is going to be and undermine his entire process. I find that to be pretty entertaining the next couple of days.
I'm going to throw them off.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm going to throw them off. I'm going to surprise them with, the third top pick.
We'll see. Be tuned for that tomorrow, guys. Let's undermine Neil and his home run picks. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, like I said before, do us a big favor. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out that free square at Boom Fantasy. Mookie Betts, he's not going to have 1,000 home runs today. Free money to be had over at Boom Fantasy. So take advantage of that. Sign up. Link below. Promo code Stochastic1. Have a great night, guys. Good luck with all your lineups. Neil and I will be back here tomorrow.